Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final round of the Barnyard Brawl Summer GT of 2018. We are back live here at the Red Barn in Greenville, South Carolina, and we have got another action packed game ready for you guys. We're going to be cutting to the table soon, but before we do, we wanted to make sure that we let you all know that this is not the last Barnyard. In fact, it's only the second. Isn't that right, TJ?
That's right.
So we're excited to bring it to y'all's attention that not only will there be another GT here at the Red Barn in Greenville in October, but Blake Burrow, who we just had an interview with, he let us know he's adding kill teams to the roster.
I'm super pumped for kill teams.
Oh, so am I.
It's so much. There's such a different variance in 40K and kill teams.
You think he'll mind?
I can't speak for him, but better to ask forgiveness than permission, right?
Yeah. Let's go with that.
We'll go with that. But yeah, no,
it is
it's such a different game.
Yep.
It's so much smaller. It plays faster. You don't get as big of a scope of models to play.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, it's a lot more accessible. It's actually how I got started with the game.
Yeah.
It's a really fun way to learn the mechanics and not have to go in on a full army.
Right. Exactly.
So if you've been thinking about playing 40K, or if you've been a fan of kill teams for a long time, there's going to be a 64-player tournament right alongside a 64-player Warhammer 40K full-scale GT here in October, and it is going to be a blast. So hope you guys are looking forward to that. But that's enough of the announcements. We've got another great game set up for you guys. We have the gentleman you just watched take down an incredibly tight game against Ryan. We've got back at the table is Charles, and he's going to be playing his Knight, his IG, and his Blood Angels. And right across the table from him, back again at the final table, defending champion Michael Walsh. And we've got pretty close to a mirror match here.
Yeah. There's some minor variances. Just in the troop choices, really, in the Militarum. And other than that, you're going to see very similar army display. But there's just a tremendous body count difference.
Yeah, we see in Walsh's list, basically he's taken the two Helvrins that we just saw Charles get some pretty good work out of against Brian in the last game, and he's traded those in for 4 additional infantry squads. So... and also 3 units of Rough Riders, actually. Yeah. So the lists are pretty similar. We're going to give you guys a rundown now while the players are getting the game set up. In Charles's list, we have an Astra Militarum battalion. That has a company commander. I believe 2 actually come. Or no, he's got a company commander and he's got Pask in the tank with the battle cannon. And then he has 3 infantry squads. And then, of course, he's got those 2 mortar teams.
Yep.
So a good, point-efficient, well-rounded batch of IG, but Pask in there for a little bit of spice.
Absolutely.
And then we look at the rest of the army. We've got a Blood Angels attachment with a Smash Captain in there. That is a Blood Angels Space Marine Captain with a Thunderhammer and a Storm Shield and a Jump Pack. He has opted to give him the Angel's Wings, which is a relic, a special item that comes out of the Blood Angels book, which means he cannot be overwatched on the charge. So he gets to charge in, and you don't even get to shoot at him.
Makes him
incredible. He says, no, this is happening. I'm charging you, and you're going to get smashed.
You're going to take this hammer right in the face. And typically they opt to make that Death Company, is my understanding.
Yeah. There's a stratagem that the Blood Angels can use to make that captain. Death Company gives them an extra attack, which is incredibly valuable when you're swinging around a Thunderhammer.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll see both Mike and Charles's Smash Captains putting in work today. But alongside of that Smash Captain, he has Mephiston. And then 3 scout units coming out of the Blood Angels. And then, of course, he has his Knights detachment.
Right.
And in there, he's got a Castellan. And he's got 2 Armiger Helvrins, which are the smaller knights. So he's got the big daddy, and he's got the 2 little guys.
Sometimes you got to take the kids out.
Well, we'll see if that choice in list building pays off for him today. He's definitely gone with a smaller footprint, but a couple of larger, more powerful models in Pask and the 2 Helvrins.
Yep.
And on the other side of the table, we've got Mike's army. We saw it in round 1.
Yep.
He's been playing it to great effect all weekend. And in that list, he, instead of a battalion, he has an Astra Militarum Brigade.
Right.
And in that brigade, he's got some characters, because he's rocking some Cadishans. So we got some Rambos running around the table.
No Sly Marbo, though.
No Sly Marbo, but he does have Strachan.
Yep.
and a great force multiplier in this army. So he has Strachan, 2 company commanders. He's got a full batch of 7 infantry squads. 4 of those infantry squads have mortar teams in them, and 3 of them are just stock 10-mans. He's also got a Minstorm Priest, an Astropath, and a platoon commander with a power sword. Both of those company commanders, by the way, are rocking power fists. Those extra attacks get you a lot of mileage out of your characters in this IG, in this Astro Military Brigade. And then we've got, rounding that out, Rough Riders, a couple of mortar teams, and the other things you would expect. He's got a very similar Blend Agents battalion, but an extra Smash Captain, and then he's got his Castellan as well. So the players here getting set up. We've got our mission for this round is 4 objectives. You can see them on the table here in a diamond formation. Both players are going to be competing over those pretty heavily, I imagine. And holding those at the end of your player turn and at the end of the battle round going to be absolutely key in this mirror match. Mike may have a small advantage there with his larger footprint, but we'll have to see if the additional firepower and the bigger, beefier models coming out of Charles' army can pull it back in his favor.
I see this one from the gate. It tends to favor Walsh's army. He's got more bodies on the field. He's got more objective control. He showed us in round 1 how effectively he can use the outflank from the Rough Riders. The Catachans will visit again. They actually take a +1 on their attacks. So that's something that's going to give them, just whenever they get these Catachans in the combat, their strength 4 instead of strength 3 like a normal guard. And so he's got options. He can either run like he showed us in the first game, and that gave him the ability to just be completely across the field as quickly as possible, or he can stop and fire. So the mortar teams actually have a better ballistic skill. So
they get full rerolls.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So we see the players starting to get set up here. We see both players starting to get set up here, starting to draw those battle lines. It looks like each of them was trading where they were dropping their scouts, trying to hold the center of the board, project out a bit. We've got the players during this deployment, they alternate deploying their units, and the scouts have the ability to deploy outside of the normal area of the table that you would get to go into.
Right.
So you can create some really strong positioning advantages by pushing your opponent further back into their part of the table. And in a matchup like this, you got to imagine Mike is going to want to force Charles into his own deployment zone as hard as possible. We'll see how that progresses. But you're absolutely right. You know, having those Rough Riders, having the extra infantry squads, it certainly allows Mike some extra flexibility when it comes to how he is controlling the board, where he's spreading out into, and also what secondary objectives he can take.
Yeah, it gives him recon as a much easier option, even than what we saw with the Dark Elder, or I'm sorry, the Drukhari.
Yeah. It's okay.
The Drukhari from the last round, because he pops up and he just got it. It's not, I have to start over here and go all the way over. It's, here we are, we've got it, turn 2. So recon becomes an immediate threat to Charles. But Charles showed us last match, he's very resilient. And he tends to keep a cool head. Even when he lost the knight last game, his counterpunch to that was so severe that it was able to bring him back into the game, and inevitably led to him winning.
Yeah, it certainly did. And it takes a lot of resilience to lose, 600 points of your 2,000-point army in one shot, after all it's really got to do is shoot or finish off one unit of Talos. So we see here, as the players deploy, immediately each of them begins building this perimeter. Both players have the Blood Angels detachment that we have seen a couple of times on the stream this weekend, and it has been all over the tournament floor. And with those little captains being able to fly all over the table, just blowing up these big knights and all sorts of other high-value targets, you definitely want to make sure that you don't leave any room for your opponent to get into your back lines. We saw the Smash Captain be used to great effect by Charles in that last game, was able to take out a Farseer, was able to take out a Dark Reaper squad, just did all kinds of work
Yep.
in that matchup. So we see here Mike going with this very sort of geometric deployment, and he's
Sure.
drawing these straight lines. He's using the full 2-inch spacing, and he's got his mortars in the corners for a larger footprint that pushes out into that corner. Make sure he boxes out. In case you didn't catch the last round, the captains, which you'll see flying all over the table in this game, if they use their ability to jump off of the table and then land somewhere else, they have to be outside of 9 inches, just like for any deep striking unit. And so if you can set a model that's within 9 inches of the corners in your deployment zone, and then you run those lines along the back edge, the reason you see Mike doing that is because none of that space will be available to Charles to drop in his Smash Captain. Now, on Charles' side, we see things they look a little bit different here.
Yeah. And I think that's just in preparation for the Rough Riders that we talked about. Now, we've discussed the Slam Captain quite a lot, but one wild card we haven't really talked about, and we've seen him basically every match, Mephiston.
We may get some hot Mephiston on Mephiston action in this game.
Well, there's only one Mephiston, so one of them is clearly a changeling.
We're going to have to let the players resolve that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the real Mephiston wouldn't lose. So
that's a fair point.
Yeah,
all right, so
exactly.
who last Mephiston standing is the real Mephiston?
That's the right.
The other one was a changeling the whole time?
Clearly it was a changeling. There was a complete misunderstanding. The other enemy is completely chaotically tainted and has to be wiped. So
high stakes you're putting on this game,
absolutely. It's almost like it's a championship round.
Yeah, well, there are certainly some high stakes on this. Whoever wins this is likely to take best overall here at a major.
Absolutely.
And you only get so many of those a year, as from an ITC ranking standpoint, which is that organizing body that Blake talked about a bit in our interview. There is a national ranking when it comes to ITC. And, for competitive players, just like in any other competitive environment, being high on that ranking can mean a lot of positive things. You can even get on the national team that way.
Exactly. There's international travel at some points. I mean, I've met guys that have been to England, that have been out into the UK to play.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous experience. It leads to huge opportunities, and all from a hobby.
Yeah, it's got to be a blast being able to travel out like that. And it's really awesome to see, how 8th edition seems like it's gained a lot of momentum. We've got players playing all over the world and having an awesome time. I can't tell you how excited, guys, we are for this game.
This is a big one.
Yeah, we've got a great almost mirror match here. Both players have shown great resilience throughout the weekend and some quality generalship.
Absolutely.
And we're getting closer here. It looks like Mike has sort of doubled up on his defensive line at the front there, and tripling up now. So he's pushing his deployment as far forward as he can.
Yeah. You think maybe he's looking to be more aggressive, given that he knows that he's got the body count?
Yeah, you'd have to imagine so. And when you really break down the lists, the Helvrin, the Castellan, and Pask, those are bigger threats to Mike's Castellan.
Yeah.
Than what Mike has to offer back. But those things don't really want to be shooting at guardsmen.
Exactly. So you look at a circumstance of utility.
Yeah.
Right. Every single thing that Mike manages to tie up in combat with these Catachans it is one less threat to his own knight. Pask having a battle cannon instead of the Punisher Gatling cannon in this case is a detriment.
Yeah, definitely not the same quality of anti-horde, as it were. Not going to kill as high of a volume of small models. With that being said, the battle cannon coming out of Pask, especially if he's able to double tap on a turn where he's trying to take down Mike's Castellan, could pay off big time.
Yep.
And that is going to be a huge point in this game, is whose Castellan is the last Castellan standing. So I would imagine both players pretty eager to go first in this game.
Absolutely. So we have 2 changelings in this match, clearly.
I think there's allowed to be more than one Castellan. We'll see. If it transforms after it dies, then we'll know.
That's a big changeling.
That would be a big changeling. All right, so we see the Bull Ogren, that one sort of other bit of spice that's in Charles's list has been deployed. It is in the taller ruin there that's in the far corner opposite of Mike. And now we see pass coming down. Now it's funny, Charles just played on this table.
Yeah.
And Mike played on it on yesterday in the
Yep.
first round. So both players have been on this terrain before.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
they've played on this map. They're familiar with where things are. But interestingly enough, they're both playing on the opposite side of the table that they played on when they were here previously.
No, I'm pretty sure we had Pask back in that back corner in the game one. Was he back? Okay.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, so we've got a bit of a mirror
Yeah.
From Charles's last deployment, but ultimately the lines look pretty similar. So he's probably expecting to be the one who's getting pressured this game. You know, we just talked about how Mike likely wants to push forward with those catechins, and he's certainly demonstrated that that is his intent.
Yeah, because if you look at the deployment line, Mike has the ability to push forward with a full line and still have his protective barrier against the deep strike.
Yeah.
So it's a situation where he can afford to send out 2 waves before he's really at any risk of opening the gates to a counterattack.
Yeah.
So in this position, when you're playing this almost mirror match, you have a little more practice with this list than I do. Do you want to be the first person to bring Mephiston and the Shield Captain down, or do you want to play the counterplay?
Well, from these two players' perspectives, they may have to manage it a bit differently because when you have access to Rough Riders and also this like significantly larger amount of guardsmen, it's a lot easier to protect those characters even when you're trying to forward project.
Gotcha.
So from Mike's perspective, they could start on the table.
Yeah.
Right? They could just stay surrounded by some guardsmen as they move up the table, and relatively low risk for Mike. However, on Charles' side, he probably needs to be a bit more conservative. With only a small handful of guardsman units, and really only one that has deployed on that front line. Other than the scouts and that unit, he doesn't have a whole lot to box out for his characters.
Sure.
And we saw last game, with the way that him and Brian were trading in the middle of the table, very quickly, all of the characters were exposed.
Right.
To the point where even Pask was getting some shots down on an autark and all sorts of carnage just all through the middle of that table.
Such a bloody battle.
Yeah, and with both players having taken Headhunter in that game, they were both just starting to rack up points.
Right.
But we see here, I think, what may be an interesting sort of point of contention in this game, which is the mortars. So that's the indirect fire, meaning that. So we've talked a lot throughout the weekend about how in order to shoot at your opponent's models or even cast psychic powers in some cases, you have to be able to see them from your model's perspective. Right? So you need that line of sight. The mortars, though, do not.
Exactly.
They have indirect fire, and we come to this game, both players having the mortars, and the mortars being the best answer for both players lining up against each other's mortars and also their infantry squad.
So you won it last time, huh? I did.
And so you get this interesting push-pull.
Okay. I'm done.
So I think what we were going at is the basically it's going to come down to who can get rid of whose mortars first. Now the benefit being here, Charles is stationary. Mike has to come to Charles, not the other way around. So you have a circumstance where
everything that's not the volcano lance is less than 66.
where Mike is almost forced to be more aggressive.
Yeah.
Because the very nature of his army, the Catachan versus I'm going to presume Cadian.
I believe Charles is playing Cadian.
Yeah, he can just sit back and throw shots on hit, reroll, wound.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the players are deploying here, right? Mike has centered up his mortars, but pretty far back, tucked behind the terrain that you can see there in the middle of the rightmost part of the table. And so the question is, where are the mortars in relation to each other? Are they within 48 inches? Are they outside of it? And if they are outside of it, do you both just say, okay, we get to keep our mortars this game, we're just going to pepper infantry, and then it's like who flinches first, who moves their mortars first.
Right.
But Mike coming through here with his last few drops, the Castellan is on the table. He's chosen the back corner about as far away as he could possibly put it, whereas Charles has deployed his still on the back board edge but centered.
Right.
So a little bit more aggressive posturing from Charles, although that may just be a product of the fact that he had to put his on the table first.
Sure. It also gives him a wider threat arc than Walsh's knight.
Yeah.
He can see straight down the pipe. He can see off to the right or off to the left. But again, with ITC, the first layer of a rune provides line of sight. So Mike has the quadrant that the knight is in straight up the board. But as soon as you start to get toward the middle, he starts to find himself locked out.
Yeah.
And then even more so when you get toward the bottom of the map. However, that knight does not have to stay stationary.
Yeah.
And it's actually got a pretty incredible move. So it's not static by it's not static by any definition.
Yeah.
So if he finds it in threat, he can just off he goes.
Yeah. Now something that's interesting here, both players have decided to go with House Raven, which is the house trait for their Castellan, or well, for all of the knights on the table. But because Charles actually has a full super heavy detachment, he gets the house trait, which means that he could advance and shoot without any penalties. So he can project forward with that extra movement if he wants to. I don't know if he'll want to do that this game. But if he wants to, he's got more freedom of movement than Mike does, because him only having the super heavy auxiliary, while he can still use the stratagems, he does not get the household trait.
Right.
So if he decides to move that Castellan more than 10 inches before firing, he's going to take some penalties.
This is the first time I've gotten
So
on the entire tournament.
we can see here Mike actually chose to just line his back board edge with his Blood Angels characters. So
Okay.
they are all the way on the back edge of the table, both captains. It'll be the movement that comes out of Mike's characters this game. We'll have to keep a close eye on. But here is the roll to go first, and it looks like with a 1 there, Charles is going to take it with a 3. So a little fist bump before the C's roll. Almost gets there, but no barn showing for Mike.
We hadn't had a C's all the whole time.
You're right, yeah. Not yet. I said not yet, but this is the last round.
This is the last round.
This is for all
We've
the marbles.
had 5 Perils of the Warp on double sixes.
Yeah.
We've had Agents of Vect fail on a 1 twice.
There's been a range of dice today.
Yeah. But yet we still haven't seen across all of our games a single C's.
You're right. But here we go. We're into the game. Charles in his first movement phase here. And it looks like his first choice is going to be to move forward a bit with these scouts, get them within range of that objective marker at the bottom of your screen there. So Charles here, he's checking the range on his Helverins, figuring out what he can shoot at. He's probably going to find that he can shoot at Guardsmen based on this setup from the deployment. But he wants to make sure he is not risking any of his models unnecessarily to Mike's Castellan.
Charles is in a position where everybody counts.
Yeah.
And that's a weird place for an Imperial Guard player to be. I'm sorry, Astra Militarum player to be. Because they're used to their troop choices just kind of being chaff.
Being more disposable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he has, I don't even know if he has half the models that Mike has. Mike has the better part of 70 bodies.
Yeah, it's probably around 50%.
Yeah.
If we just look at total individual models.
So pound for pound, just at the very core of it, Charles has to kill 2 models for every one in order to break even.
Yeah.
And he can't afford to stay static because the objectives aren't close enough.
Yeah. It's funny, we actually see here, so both of these players are pretty big into the hobby. Charles just made a joke. He said, I'm more of a painter than a player. Hard to pass that one off when you're standing at table 1 at the end of a 5-round major. But Mike just admiring some of the work that's been done on his academy. He says, you mind if I borrow this guy for this game? No, not so much this time, says Charles. But continuing to progress through his movement phase here. It looks like he is going to be pushing guardsmen into that center ruins.
Yeah.
We've seen that be a heavily contested part of the table throughout the weekend. Without an objective marker in there, though, things may look a little bit different this time around.
Yep.
There are some scouts that Mike deployed into that space, though, and we'll see if that's going to be a priority target for Charles on this first turn. Now, what I'm interested in seeing this game is as we progress, the quality shooting that Charles possesses, like we mentioned, does not have very many good targets outside of the Castellan.
Right.
Mike has deployed his Castellan as far away as it could possibly be from Pask, from one of those Hellrins, and from the opposing Castellan.
True.
Is there going to be a point in this game where, because Mike is able to win the skirmishes amongst the smaller models, simply because of the fact that he has so many more, is that going to create a situation where Charles is pressured to move forward?
Well, he's going to have to. There's, as you mentioned, there's the quality of life of the ammunition that he's got. So you put yourself in his position. Once you kill the Castellan, then what?
Yeah.
Like, clearly you don't want to lose the Castellan.
Yeah.
But you get what you want. You blow the big guy up. Then what? So you've got your own Castellan. He's got his volcano cannon. That's great.
Yeah.
You can shoot some guard with it.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, they're gonna die real hard. But,
Exactly.
You're still shooting, 100-point weapons at guardsmen. So we see here Charles starting to take advantage of that advance and shoot house trade for the Helvrin just in front of Mike's chin there. And so he is pushing it up, but he's keeping it opposite of Mike's Castellan. Be interesting to see if he's got that just outside of the 48-inch range for most of the Castellan's weapons. If it is, he may be trying to draw Mike just a couple of inches forward so that he can set up a scenario where he's going to be able to advance and then fire his Castellan into Mike's by providing a juicy target there with the Helvrin.
Yep.
So we see a second advance. This is going to be a pretty big move out of the Helvrin. These things are super fast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One thing that we didn't really touch on, that we didn't see a lot of from Charles' last game, is the presence of the Bulgrins. They actually mean a lot here. So,
Oh, that is one heck
wow,
of a model,
look
isn't
at
it?
that. That's incredible. Look at that guy.
Yeah, you can see all the inner workings there. Really, it's just some awesome detail work that Charles has put into this model.
Absolutely.
And, man, look at that. Two Castellans staring at each other from across the battlefield. We're going to have some fireworks this game.
But what we were talking about there, the Bulgrin. The Bulgrin are kind of the answer. If he can be aggressive enough with them, he's got a choice here. They can either screen for Pask, or he can start to move them up and make it to where they're, say, a screen for Slam Captains or Mephiston.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he is trying to leverage it as a presence on the map or if he's just going to use it exclusively as that escort that it's sort of designed to be. He did deploy it in the ruin that is at the top left of your screen there, just to the left of the Castellan. And well, I believe he's got a character in there with it, so he may be trying to protect against that Oathbreaker missile stratagem that we saw Mike try and get Kodiaz with in the first game.
Yeah, that bodyguard rule is pretty fantastic.
If you don't think you can see
So.
We'll just play it as a D3 then. That's fine.
Both players do have access to that stratagem, though, and there are quite a few different characters on the table. But it looks like we're into the psychic phase here. Smite comes out, picks up a couple of scouts.
Got it. That's a 7.
All right, looks like Night Shroud has been cast on himself. Likely trying to protect against that Oathbreaker.
Pound in the dust. We'll throw a frag grenade from this guy into that squad.
You got it.
All right, so we're rolling straight into the shooting phase. We see a crack grenade coming out of Charles's scout squad here into those IG. 4 shots, hitting on 3s, gets all the hits, and to wound we've got 2. So Mike, he's got his first couple of saves to throw of the game here.
5 up.
Takes the 5-ups, gets 2 of them,
4 bolt
and
pistols.
so that's going to be 2 IG dead. Here come the bolt pistols. 1 wound out of the rest of that scout squad.
We'll just leave the die in the air since we're.
All right, so Mike, his guardsmen and well, all of the guardsmen on the table, they're coming into this with a 5-up armor save. So that means any rolls of a 5 or higher, as long as there's no negative modifier being put down by his opponent's guns, those are going to get him the saves, going to keep his models on the table.
4 guys will shoot that squad.
So as we see this shooting phase continue, lots of small arms fire in this game.
Absolutely.
Into that.
This turn is really pivotal for Charles. It's incredibly important that he get as big of a lead as possible here, get as much damage across the board here, because as the game continues, Mike's going to fly across the board. He's going to be in every little nook and cranny with these Catachan so quickly that Charles risks being a rent.
Yeah, you have to wonder, you know, is he taking a big risk here by moving forward on the table, staring down a bunch of Catachans? And it's going to depend on how much damage he's able to put down here. So, got some saves here. The scouts are in cover, so they're looking at some 3-up saves, but 2 2s there. Tough break for Mike. He's going to have to pull a couple of scouts.
1 wound.
All right, 1 more wound coming down on that unit.
Okay, 5-up. Made it.
Got him.
All right.
Nice.
Sick.
Save made there.
Next scout squad
So
are gonna shoot.
nothing too big
guy's
here
gonna
yet,
throw
but as we saw in the first game, Charles, he likes to
and then the
work
other
his way
4
up,
will shoot
Yeah,
the bolt
yeah.
pistols into the other squad.
build towards that Castellan.
Pistols.
So we've got some more shots coming out of Scout Squad here.
2 wounds.
Bolt pistols,
The cover.
some good wounding.
They're good.
Cover saves here, though, going to keep Mike's scouts safe.
Don't do crack.
And here comes the grenade.
Guess I shouldn't have.
No go.
He'll throw a crack. I think he's in 6. Looks like it.
That's
All right, so we have a quick check on the distance between these 2 scout squads here. Charles would like to throw a crack grenade. That's a alternate profile that the scouts, one scout can fire with. They basically lob a grenade, higher strength, good AP value. It's a great thing to throw at other Space Marines.
Do you think Charles has missed an opportunity here with not using the Grenader stratagem?
I guess they're all not technically.
Well, so he may have with that guard squad that's at the center of the table. It's possible, though, you know, without the brigade, he is operating on fewer command points than Mike is.
Sure.
And so he may be a little concerned about his command point spending throughout the game. You know, both players have the ability to generate command points off of each other.
Right.
They're both going to be spending a ton of command points this game.
Yep.
But we'll have to see, you know, just what he's able to get done on this first turn. It looks like the player's checking the line of sight from Pask here, seeing what valid targets he has. Remember, the ruins that you see on the table, the centerpiece, as well as the pieces of terrain in the top left and bottom right corners of your screen there, those are ruins, and since we are playing ITC, the first floor of those buildings, even if we can see windows, the players must play as though that completely blocks line of sight.
Yep.
And so Charles here trying to see what angles he has with Pask, figuring out where he can put some shooting. Mike there deciding if he wants to take cover, it looks like, with some of his guardsmen,
3 6-ups.
but elects not to. So 6-up saves coming from Mike here, no go. He's going to go ahead and pull some guardsmen. Some stubbers coming out. This is the small arms fire from the Helvrins.
The big guns.
Yeah, the big guns, as Charles kept referring to him. Quite the opposite, but sitting there on top, perched above the model. So Charles now moving over to his other Helvrin, checking ranges, checking angles, figuring out what valid targets he's got across the table.
So if you're Mike right now, what are you worried about? What's your worst case scenario?
So that's who
You know, honestly, with where the models are positioned right now, I don't think there's anything that can go terribly wrong either way.
That's fine.
Okay.
You know, Mike's deployment was fairly conservative, and that's a big part of the strength of this army, right? Is that he's got hundreds and hundreds of points spread across tens and tens of models.
Right.
You know, each of those models is only 4 points,
Right.
or a little bit over that. And so,
So I don't get it.
you know, you're in a situation where it's like, okay,
So 11 to 12.
a lot of my guys are going to die,
Number of
but I brought a lot of them because a lot of my guys are going to die. So, you know, it doesn't look like the Castellan is at risk here. We'll see once we get to Charles's Castellan
So
whether or
45
not
bucks.
he's in range there with the 48-inch guns. But
On silver.
some more saves come through, some more guardsmen
These will
fall.
be the 36
Altogether, though,
Stubbers.
none of those individual units
One
have
hit.
been knocked down too low.
One wound.
It doesn't appear as though yet Mike is going to have a terribly devastating morale phase. Of course, at the end of the turn, based on how many models you lost, you have to take a morale check. And if you end up having a total number higher than your morale, then some of your guys just run away.
It's true.
So it's a good way to be able to cause additional damage to your opponent's army. That may be why you see Charles splitting his shooting between a few different guardsman squads, but we'll have to see if it pays off for him. It can be a risk if he doesn't just outright kill a unit this turn.
And then it's like that one Maui freaking football team. They're the All Blacks.
They're the All Blacks. All right. 10 shots.
All right. So,
When I
10
have more
shots.
Time, I like have this
Yeah.
full plate. I'm gonna do all their helmets.
Looks
and
like the
shit.
mortar's
See, I'm
coming
gonna
in
get
on the
skulls
guardman
on
on the far side of the table, and that is a heck of a roll. Even with the take aim, only had to reroll one die. Let's see how many wounds he gets here. Strength 4 against toughness 3 means that he was wounding on 3s there, and here are the saves from Mike.
Yep.
Looks like 5 more guardsmen are going to die here. Mike's just going ahead and pulling them.
Okay, and then we're gonna
You know, we've seen this a couple of times from Mike, just sort of picking up models.
next round into
Not too worried about it. I suppose it's
whichever one of
easier to
these
feel
guys you wanna
comfortable
take
when you're losing models is when there's another 50 behind him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the other things is the screen is set up to stop the slam captain
Roll that.
and
You can roll the
Mephiston,
six.
but
9.
Mike's already got his champs on the board.
I want the die, but I
Yep.
should.
So as soon as they come down, no matter what damage they do,
That was,
Mike has a counter attack which
no,
takes
I had
away
one
the
that I didn't
entire physical threat, close combat threat that Charles has. And as we saw in the last game, well, the shooting profiles on his guns are fantastic. He absolutely depends on the slam captain at Mephiston.
Yeah, the two Blood Angels characters won him the game.
Yeah.
And there was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But we see a few more guardsmen falling here near that front line. It looks like the mortars are done. And Charles here trying to figure out exactly what to do with that Castellan this turn. So surveying the battlefield, eyeballing some mortars, checking on the
Volcano
distance to
Lance
that
in the
Castellan.
First, we'll play the stratagem to reroll all ones.
Okay.
The 2.
All right, so we see the House Raven stratagem coming out for Charles here, spending 2 command points. Now, what that allows him to do is when this Castellan is shooting, remember it has weapons that have a variable amount of shots, right? 2d6, 2d3, 1d6. He's going to reroll all ones for that night this
Oh,
turn.
right, because you don't get. Yeah, because he's not on the board yet. So, do I get any?
All right,
do I get
so
any here? Sorry.
looks like the Volcano Lance targeting
So
Mike's
we'll
Castellan
Volcano
here.
Lance into him.
And Mike has elected to rotate ion shields. So he's going to be on a 3-up invulnerable save for his knight. That means regardless of the type of wound, unless it's
Put,
that
Siege
missile,
Breaker cannons in
Mike
there.
is going to get a 3-up save. So any rolls of 3 or higher are going to prevent some significant damage here. Once again, Charles just checking distance. It looks like he's trying to figure out exactly where he's going to put all the rest of his guns.
The good news is he's got lots of guard to shoot.
He certainly does.
Siege Breakers.
Volcano.
They'll be
Paul's Wrath,
extra dead,
Volcano.
but they'll still just
Holding
fall over.
missiles, yep. Not supercharging.
All right,
obviously.
so it looks like Call's Wrath
So we'll start with
and the Volcano Lance have targeted the
3
Castellan.
shots.
3 shots out of the Volcano Lance, and this is big here.
It's supposed to be 12.
Charles wants to see some
Middle line there.
some hits and wounds off this. Every one of
Reroll that
these
one.
that finds its way through
Wound on
is going to
threes.
result in 3d3 damage.
One.
So wounding on 3s
I'm
here,
gonna- you know what, I'm gonna
just
spend
the
a
one
command point.
wound. Charles deciding,
So
yes,
2
he is
wounds.
going to spend
Do
a
I get it
command
back?
point.
I do.
Do I get it back?
He got it back, and he got the wound. So 2 3-up invulnerable saves coming from Mike, and
2
these are important. And there they are,
And the barn doors open.
definitively putting down those saves. Didn't need 6s,
Yeah,
but
if you want.
sometimes it's about sending a message.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
That
just roll
knight
in case
says,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got
guys for
nothing.
mortals.
You got nothing. I'm
not
not
super
worried
worried.
about you.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
All right, so
reroll
it
one.
looks like
First blood.
Charles not electing to supercharge here. It's possible that Call's Wrath may have shot at a different target, not at the Castellan. I can't imagine he would avoid supercharging there. So,
do you play the D3 as a 2?
Only if the die shows 1.
That's how I prefer. Okay. 2.
All right, so the player's just making a quick debate here. These dice you see on the screen, they represented the number of shots. It is technically a D3 number of shots, but the players have determined together, and this is how we've seen most tournaments rule it. Unless the die is actually showing a 1,
Oh, we're winning on 2s on these, right?
not just a 2 that counts as a 1, but an actual physical
nice
1,
one
then
on all
the
those.
players don't get to reroll it with the Raven stratagem. So
you're
5,
saying
6 up saves
it.
coming in
Got it.
off of these siege breaker missiles into some guardsmen, but no saves made. That's going to get the squad, and with that, it looks like Charles has gone ahead and secured a kill point. Now, Call's Wrath cleaves another unit of
Okay,
guardsmen
charge
from the
phase.
other side. It looks like he's gotten 2 units killed this turn so far.
Yes.
But now we see Charles moving into
Rapid fire range of everybody.
the charge phase. He's going to have some Blood Angel scouts coming in on these guardsmen.
This is something that I've seen Mike do in a couple of different games that I've seen him play. He will actually take 2 different dice, one for him, one for his opponent, and he will physically keep track of the number of completely killed units.
Yeah, it's a good way not to lose track of that killed more. You know,
Right.
he never wants to be caught off guard.
Exactly.
You'll see as we go through, you know, Mike occasionally he counts at the beginning of the turn just to make sure that he knows exactly the number of units he needs to kill. So during the Overwatch, it looks like just 1 save forced by Mike's guardsman, but the save is made, and Charles rolls plenty of distance on this charge to get in here on these guardsmen. So these scouts are going to be coming in hot. And you have to imagine Charles is thinking, well, if I leave my guys here, they're just going to get charged by Catechins on the next turn. So I might as well force myself to swing first in this combat and try and thin them out as much as possible. And he's done a pretty good job of it here.
Yep, it's true.
It looks like he's killed somewhere in the range of 30 guardsmen so far in this turn. Not quite half, but it does take out a majority of the guard that were deployed more forward in Michael's setup. All right, so we've got another charge happening at the center of the table.
I think you just bumped him, but you call it either way. Okay.
All right, so looks like a failed charge here on that 3. In fact, Charles, after failing the charge, decided to use a command point there. Rerolls that 1 into a 4. That means he has a 6-inch charge, and that is going to be enough distance for his guardsmen in the center of the table to be able to charge the last couple of remaining of Mike's Blood Angel scouts. So we see the guardsmen moving in here. Not terribly likely that they're going to be able to get through these scouts, but we'll see. It can be a hefty number of attacks. But if Mike's scout squad can live through this and crack back, then he may start to see some good damage output and set up his Catechins for the ability to push up the center of the table.
Actually, can you put them on the other side, like inside it, so I can try to get some cover?
How about I just put them like this, like they're
And
in
we
base,
say, yeah,
and
sounds
we
good.
say we're good, and you'll have one dude within.
All right, so the players here, you know, in the interest of making sure they're able to get through the whole game, you know, being very gracious with each other and allowing each other to move models after declaring the intent of what they're trying to accomplish with their movement. That can be, it may look a little weird to some of the audience, but at a lot of top tables you'll see this, you know, both players with respect for each other getting to the table and just wanting to play a heads-up game, focus on outplaying each other, not out cheesing each other, as it were.
We try to avoid gotcha moments.
As close as they can.
Yeah,
without
so
losing the objective.
both players, though, doing a good job of declaring their intent, communicating what they're trying to do, and you know, when you do that, and you can trust each other to make these little adjustments, it's a good place to be in a game because it means you can play more efficiently, and there's a good amount of trust between both
Okay,
players.
so but they can all attack.
Yeah.
All right, so here we
So
go.
got 5 dudes,
So
2,
that's what
11
11.
from the.
Yeah. This is all in the gold, right?
So
These
11
are not
attacks
part of
coming
it.
from the Blood Angel scouts
Should be 3s and
into
3s. Those are red thirst.
the guardsmen. 3s into 3s here for Charles to get through his damage. He's got 3 saves. He's able to make one of those 5-ups.
So I'm gonna
Gold's
just
kind of cranked in there a
I'm
little
gonna
bit.
leave these 2 dudes because they're by the objective.
Yep.
And I'm gonna pull.
It looks like that was actually the combat into the scouts. Interesting choice here for Charles to swing into the scouts first. You have to wonder if both of those Catterton guard units are in, which it looks like it may only be one of them on the combat on Mike's deployment line. We may see an interrupt come in here because those Cattertons, they can take down a chunk out of some scouts with only 4-up saves there.
Cool. There. You want to interrupt? I'm always gonna ask you that, like.
Yeah, not with
not with your guardsman.
Well, maybe because I'm within range of my priest.
Here's some
but I
banter
think it's
between the
best
two
I don't.
players right now, kind of discussing the guardsmen themselves.
Yeah, trying to figure out if Mike wants to interrupt here. Charles here, you know, offered the interrupt. You have to wonder if he's thinking that it's in his interest, in his best interest for Mike to try and interrupt, but it does not look like he is going to elect to do so. So here come some attacks. Pretty good number of hits there, looking for 3s on these wounds, and he gets, looks like 5 of them. Couple of saves there, but that is likely going to be the unit.
Charles has had an incredible first turn.
Yeah, this has gone pretty well for him. You know, he maybe wasn't able to put damage down that he would have liked to put down on the Castellan, but he, right now, thanks to getting that first turn, has pretty much evened up the number of models that can project onto the board between the two armies.
Sure.
So we'll have to see how Mike's able to hit back, but certainly better than things could have been if Mike had gotten that first turn and been able to wipe out a majority of Charles's footprint while still having all of his.
So what we're seeing here is a situation, as I see it, and I would welcome your opinion on this.
This is bad streaming etiquette. Sorry, guys.
Basically just putting himself in a position where he normally would have been at the beginning of the turn with almost any other army. So he's spent the entire first turn just trying to get rid of Walsh's advantage. So we're still yet to get to kind of the beating heart of Walsh's army. And
yeah, all those
meanwhile,
characters.
Yeah, and meanwhile, he's putting himself not in the best position or putting himself in not ideal conditions. And Walsh is a seasoned vet. He's going to see those things.
Yeah, he, you know, we saw Mike in the first game, you know, take pretty significant advantage of some charge phases. And there's a lot of, you know, talk in the room, you know, from other players, you know, Walsh being the defending champion. A lot of people saw him play last time around. And the thing that we consistently hear about Mike is that his movement, whether it be in the movement phase or in the charge phase, is just on point.
Yep.
And so we'll see what he's able to accomplish here on his turn. But combat coming through from the scouts, able to clear out a few more Cattertons. Just a small handful of guys left. Mike here checking to see who he gets to crack back with. So here's a couple of scouts near the center of the table. And 2 wounds there. Looks like 1 failed save on back on Charles' scout. So a little bit of a punch back, but here we'll see some Cattertons getting an additional attack.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
All right, so
Well,
Oh, no,
they
it's-
have
16
two
attacks
teams,
coming here.
So what I said 16, right?
16, yeah.
3, 6,
We'll see if
9,
these scouts are able to weather the
12.
storm.
15, 16. So 4.
And if Mike's able to clear this scout unit here in Charles's first turn, he may be pretty pleased
No,
with
he
that.
just gives them
Yeah.
an extra attack.
And that's a lot of
He
hits.
himself
Yeah,
rerolls,
that is a
I
lot of
think.
hits. Pretty good roll so far. Here comes the wound roll.
3.
Looking for 4s here, though, and does not get very many of them. So that's maybe evened out a bit.
Okay,
But
so
some
your Space
great
Marines are on
saves
guard.
rolled right there by Charles.
That's established.
Mike says that's pretty classic Space Marines attacking some guard. It's about how that's supposed to look.
Can I get within 3? I can.
All right, so Charles here, he's thinking to himself, well, if I can kill the rest of this guard squad, can I consolidate and capture this objective? Because if he does that, then he may have positioned himself here to get the bonus. Although it looks like he may have left that top center objective open. So we'll see what he elects to do here. He was considering fighting those scouts
I'm on a
twice.
7, so it's a 4, and I have Unleash on no fear. So they're
All good.
All right,
this
so
other
morale
squad
check on
here,
the scouts that are still alive.
Silver
Looks like they're
has
just fine.
3 guys left.
Mike checking here to see how much of each of those 2 guard squads is left alive before he takes this
Silver
morale
lost
check.
7.
One of the things that
So I am going to
guard players will
roll
know,
dice
but
plus- it's just
not
dice.
necessarily every player is going to know.
5
Guard have the
job.
ability to blob up their guys. So, and what we mean by that is, say you've got 2 groups of guard, and there's 5 left in one group and 2 left in another. They are actually able to use a stratagem where they're able to form into one new unit.
Yeah.
And that can help prevent things, you know, it can help prevent first strike. It can help prevent, you know, last strike, things of that nature. Just because you're not giving them the kill that they need from it.
Without grand strategies on board.
And we may see
I will
here
use a counter reroll
Mike
just in
using that
case.
stratagem on this next turn. One of the things that he's been able to do to great effect with that blobbing stratagem is he blobs up, he wraps one unit, and doesn't kill it, one of his opponent's units. Now, what I mean by wrap is in the combat step, or in that part of the turn, you can actually create a situation where you completely surround an enemy unit with your own models, but you don't actually kill them.
Oh, yeah,
However,
that's
since
like
they
a
don't have the ability to fall back because they're completely surrounded, that means you get to spend your opponent's entire shooting phase in combat, and you cannot shoot into combat in 8th
Right.
edition. So that means you can completely safeguard a blob of 20 guardsmen from being shot. And when you've got characters hiding inside of that blob, you can actually make a significant chunk of your army just completely untargetable. So
And I'm up to 5, right?
looks like another failed morale check there. So all of those units cleared out here. A lot of damage done out of
Yep.
Charles on this first turn. You know, all but 1 scout squad killed. All of the guard squads that were deployed near the front
kill
line
one,
there
hold
completely taken out.
All that stuff, first blood.
So you got kill 1, hold 1.
So players totaling
bonus.
Charles's first
blood
turn here.
roll.
Kill 1, hold 1,
No Kingslayer, no Headhunter.
and
And then
first strike on old school achieved here as well. It looks like he's chosen also to go with Kingslayer on the Castellan. Does not score any points here with the Volcano Lance failing to do damage.
if I move 12, I'm in range. And then we'll just check.
All right, so Mike checking here, seeing if there's been any cheeky angles left open in the backfield for one of his captains. And also double checking the range between his Castellan and Charles' Castellan. If he's able to get within 48 here, being able to put the full rotation of shooting into the opposing Castellan, if Mike's in a situation where he can push up with his own knight, that may compensate for that big loss in guardsmen that he just experienced.
Yeah. Though, I mean, to be fair, we watched Charles lose his knight at in the previous round, and it was the counter swing without the knight that did the dirty work, not the knight itself. So we'll see how he copes with it. I mean, if Walsh is able to take the knight off the board, Walsh has some better answers than the Dark Eldar have for the Slam Captain and Mephiston in Slam Captains of their own.
Yeah. Yeah, he could just trade 1 for 1. You know, we'll see what he decides to go with here. We've also seen the guardsman blobs that hide the characters can come up with some pretty great results when going up against things like a Smash Captain, things like Mephiston.
Right.
You know, ultimately the guardsmen, especially Catachan, are a lot better at taking down a Smash Captain than they are Mephiston.
Right.
Mephiston having that 2-up armor save into a 5-up Feel No Pain, pretty tough to get through, even with a heavy amount of dice.
Even with mortal wounds, as we saw last game.
Yeah. Man, what a crazy end to that game.
Wow.
5 actually Feel No Pains made by Mephiston on that last turn to keep him alive on 1 wound, and
wouldn't
that
go down.
alone was the 3-point swing that would have given Brian the game. So
Yep.
an incredibly close game last round. But here we see a pretty strong punch, you know, come out of Charles. Mike now looking to move into his movement phase, really just taking a couple of minutes here to plan out where every model's going to end up. And here come the guard, working their way forward, looking to position to retake center of this table, contest these objectives, and you have to imagine that Mike coming into this game with the significantly larger footprint, his game plan had to involve holding more each turn.
I would think so, especially with the Rough Riders in the outflank. One of the problems he's going to run into, though, is he doesn't have as many buddies as he started with, and he lost us. I don't know that he. I'm sure he expected to lose some, but he lost roughly 30. Maybe more.
May have actually been a little bit more than that. Yeah, he lost at least 30.
So where most people would just kind of try to pop shots that they wouldn't necessarily be able to land on the Castellan or things like that, Charles just kind of owned the situation and said, "Okay, I can only shoot guard. Let's shoot lots of guard."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the Castellan, obviously it feels better when it's shooting at another big, strong priority target. But at the end of the day, the thing puts out so many shots. If you have to shoot at infantry squads, you're still going to kill them.
Absolutely.
It's not that he can't do it. You'd just rather shoot 600 points at more than 40.
Exactly.
But hey, sometimes killing that 40 points of guardsmen is exactly what ends up winning you the game. So we'll see if those decisions pay off for Charles here. And Charles has returned to his perch that he was taking advantage of there against Brian, just waiting to see as Mike decides exactly how to proceed with this turn.
So something to consider for a lot of the folks that may be watching, these guys are playing roughly 3 hours at a set, and they're standing for a lot of that.
Yeah.
And 2 days of that, by the time you're done, if you're not sitting down when you can, it's going to tear you up. You're going to be pretty sore by the end of it.
Yeah, you definitely are. And, keep in mind, this is round 5 for these guys. So
exactly.
It's 15 hours of 40K over the course of 2 days. That is a lot of time, just that slight lean forward this time of the weekend. Your lower back's starting to feel a little bit. But both players pretty focused, heads in the game. You can't imagine that's bothering them too much.
So you mentioned that the last brawl, when you did your interview with Alan, you mentioned that your first brawl, your first GT, was that brawl.
We know where he's at.
Yeah.
So how'd you feel when you got home?
Tired. Yeah, I did the driving too, so
wow.
We got back around 3 in the morning, but you know what? It was a ton of fun. And as you can see here, these players heads in the game even after all that time. Mike making very methodical choices for each unit that he's moving here. The Castellan pressing forward just a bit. But yeah, TJ, if anyone who's watching this hasn't been to a GT before, I absolutely encourage you to make the trip, whether it's to the next Barnyard or any other GT in your local area. They are a ton of fun. And if you think, well, I don't know if I'm good enough to compete at that level yet, just come to the tournament. It's so much fun. There's great camaraderie. I mean, you can see the games we've had on stream this weekend. Players are just having a ton of fun.
Absolutely.
And it's a great way to meet other people who are into the hobbies that you love.
One of the things to mention as well is that these guys they're actually pretty easy to get along with. I mean, all things considered, it's I think there's this idea that it might be hard to get into your local competitive gaming circle, or that there's some kind of inner circle, and that's not necessarily the case. You come to a situation like this, you meet somebody like Mike. It doesn't do Mike any good to be any other way than he currently is, because then people don't want to play and he doesn't have anybody to play against.
Yeah, definitely better to be a good guy. But we see here Mike has fallen back those scouts. He's going to free up the guard unit and the scout unit that Charles has at the center of the table so that they can be shot at. He's also pushed up, it looks like, with, I believe, Strachan and another character there looking to get the kill on some scouts. So we're seeing here Mike, it looks like he was really hoping to get in with a deep strike on that Castellan and maybe combine his own Castellan shooting along with a Smash Captain to take it down. But Mike here just checking his spacing again, making sure even though he needs to project forward that he's not leaving an angle from that back corner for Charles to get in with his own captain.
Go ahead and move my Vitae captain.
And once again, just like what we were talking about, this is going to come down to whose Smash Captain gets into combat
need
first,
to kill a bunch of stuff until
because they're game
Maybe kill a
winners.
bunch of stuff to try to
They
open up
kind
some
of
room.
disrupt the flow of the game while simultaneously turning the flow directly into the hands of the person who's wielding it. But in this case, the first person
you're
to
blocked
flinch
all
is at a disadvantage.
Potentially, yeah. You know, it depends on how much output you're able to get in your first volley with
Exactly.
those characters. And, you know, Mike has a second captain, so he has a slight advantage there, you know, as far as that, you know, arms race is concerned. But we see both captains jumping up just in front of that terrain piece there that Mike's mortars are hidden in. And now we see some Rough Riders. And Mike is probably looking to leverage these Rough Riders as a way to sort of rebuild that front line that he had created on the first turn. And so, checking both sides, just figuring out exactly what the best angle for these guys, for these
Do you have your tape?
gentlemen on horseback to come to the table on. It looks like with these Rough Riders coming on, we're likely approaching the end of Mike's movement phase. He's gotten his guard positioned where he wants them. He's gotten his characters positioned where he wants them. And just creating some spacing with that Rough Rider unit around the Castellan to make sure that that Smash Captain isn't going to get any free shots in.
Both players have done a really good job. When you play the list, you know the kind of ins and outs of the list, and they've both done a very good job of not giving each other a lot of breathing space. So they're still there, but there's gonna come a point where one of them has to make a play that takes them out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happens, it's up to if the other player can optimize on that. It's gonna give them a huge swing.
Yeah, whoever picks their spot best
Right.
to take that swing is the one that's likely going to win this game. So we see Mike here. It looks like he actually may have used the relic on one of his company commanders here. It is a relic that allows you to outflank along with one infantry squad. And so once again, we see him using that to replenish the ranks here at the front of his deployment zone. So we'll see if that pays off for him. It looks like that may be why that first batch of shooting looked quite so devastating. It's because he had another 10 off of the screen.
Okay, so Psychic. Meph is going to wings.
All right, so we move into the Psychic phase here. Mephiston casting Wings of Sanguinius on himself. He's going to get a free 12-inch move and pick up the fly keyword. Fly, not too relevant for him this game, but that extra 12-inch move definitely puts him in position to try and take out this scout squad.
He's going to do Psychic Barrier on this squad.
All right, looks like the Astropath here for Mike is going to be casting Psychic Barrier on that guard squad. That is going to give them +1 to their saves, so improving their durability just a bit.
So I have orders. I'm going to issue move to gold squad.
All right, so we go into the top of the shooting phase, and it looks like
So they would have had it either way.
Mike here electing to leverage move on this infantry squad, and he is going to advance with them. And here we see that forward movement that we've come to expect out of this army.
I hope Charles has a comfortable couch because he's not leaving his house. Mike's gonna keep him locked in there.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. I think he did a really great job at pushing forward in that first turn. You know, Charles has put Mike in a situation where, even though he can move here to reestablish that center board control, he's not able to do it by just moving and charging.
Right.
And that means he's not getting offense out of these models.
Yep.
And when you're at the center of the table, just trading guardsmen back and forth, you know, a lot of the higher level players, you know, in the ITC and you know your people on the U.S. national team, people going to ETC. There's a lot of talk about at the end of the day, the best answer to little guys is just your own little guys.
Right.
But if you're stuck in a situation where you have to move like Mike is here, which makes it so that they can't shoot and they can't charge, you're not getting any offensive output there.
Sure.
So he's still getting that board projection, but not doing a whole lot of killing.
Sure. But now that Mike's got his characters on the move, which you saw with Wings of Sanguinius, and we've seen the Slam Captain move, Does this change the mindset from Charles of turn 1,
Squad with their
where
squad
I'm
action.
just going to kill a bunch of guardsmen? Well, now there are some actual targets to really kind of focus on. And while in my mind, you know, I'm going to kill some more guardsmen next turn because there's really no threat from any of the HQs yet, and it's still just kind of a knight v knight situation. Maybe this is what it takes to turn his attention in a direction, you know, and get him off of killing the chaff, as it were, being a Cadian player. Whereas for Mike, the Catachan are a part of his, you know, they're one of the biggest parts of his melee combat option.
So these guys can't shoot.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, it's the Catachan's probably a bit more valuable than each individual Cadian on the other side of the table, but we do see Mike rolling into a shooting phase here, and I think a big contributing factor to what you're asking about is just how many of Charles's footprint or infantry he's going to be able to return kill here. So he's starting to go to work. He's putting a few of these characters' pistols into the scout squad. Gets a hit here, but fails to wound. Just looking to soften him up a little bit before he puts any of his characters into combat.
1 hit, 1 wound.
All right, so far, similarly to Charles, Mike just kind of working his way up from the smaller firearms up the chain to the bigger guns.
Wounds.
All right. One crack grenade gets in on the scout squad. That's one more scout dead.
So he's got 1 shot. And I got these 3 in rapid
And it
fire,
looks
so
like
it's
Mike had an additional scout squad tucked inside of that center ruin. He's moved them up out of that ruin to tag the objective here. Definitely wanted to make sure that he puts himself in a position to hold more.
7.
Right.
Although it's going to be tough to kill more here. We saw 4, potentially 5 units it looked like that were killed by Charles in that first turn. We'll have to see when the players total it up.
I do. So 10 to 11.
All right, and here comes some additional shooting. Pretty hefty amount of ones there, but rolling to wound, and Mike's able to pick up just 1. And this is onto the scouts as well, so that's 1 more scout finished off here. Surprisingly, he hasn't had to commit anything major to these scouts, but he is really just trying to guarantee that these scouts are going to die once he charges, it looks like.
Okay, 3 mortars into that squad.
All right, and here come the mortars. So the first 3 looking to target that center unit that Charles has leveraged to try and take over that ruin in the center of the table. 10 shots, looking for 4s here for Mike. Rerolls the 1s thanks to that take aim command, so plenty of hits there, looking well above 50%. And that's a solid wound roll too. He only needed 4s or higher for that wound roll, and he ends up getting plenty of 5s and 6s. So with that, he's able to pick up the rest of the scout squad that was pressuring his own scouts on that bottom objective. So first mission accomplished here for Mike. He knows he's got himself very well positioned to take down a 2nd scout squad, and he may now be eyeing some guardsmen. We'll see where he puts this next batch of mortars. Another pretty solid amount of shooting there. It's 11 shots coming out of these mortars. There are 3 mortars in each squad. They each shoot D6. So we see 11 shots here, looking once again for some 4s. Pretty good round of hits as well. And now he'll be wounding on 3s for these guardsmen, but a little less that time out of the wounds, and some decent saves means that Charles isn't going to take any damage from that volley. All right, so Mike here just assessing what to do with this last mortar squad, and then we'll likely be on to the Castellan, seeing where he really thinks he needs to invest that high quality shooting.
So do you put the major shots into the Warglaives, or do you try to put the knight down a bracket?
You know, I think it comes down to how much you expect Charles to target your Castellan on the next turn. If you think you're in a position where if he pushes forward with his own Castellan in order to get the full round of shooting on your own, does that open you up to be able to get him with the captain?
Right.
And if it does, only 1 hit and 1 wound there coming out of that last mortar team. So significantly lower output from the second and third mortars than he got out of the first. But still able to kill the scout squad, and that was definitely a priority for him on this turn. But back to the Castellan, you know, if he thinks his Castellan's relatively safe, or if Charles decides to commit his own Castellan to kill Mike's, if that is going to open up a pocket for a Smash Captain to come in on Charles's back line, then, you know, Mike may be fine just shooting at the Helverin, taking out a target that he is pretty likely to kill.
Fire everything
We'll see here.
Your Castellan?
Okay. So you're 48 away.
Yeah.
All right, so Mike did
Including
position
one
himself
of
to be within
these
48.
I'll rotate Ion.
And he is going to use the House Raven stratagem, and he has declared that
Do.
all of his
Let's see if
guns
I get my
on
three
his
back.
Castellan
I get
are in
one.
fact targeting
So
the
you're down
Castellan on
to
Charles' side of the
9.
board.
And then I'll
So
see
this
if
is a
I'm up to
very
11.
important shooting
You
phase
don't,
here
see
out
if
of
I
this
get 9 back.
Castellan for
And then
Mike.
I get an extra
So
one
he
because
checks to
it's
see if he gets
so
any of the
I
command
got 'em
points back, and he does.
back. Okay, so
He gets
11
the
wood,
House Raven
command
stratagem
points.
for free. Always
So,
nice to pick that up on a discount.
Volcano Lance.
All right, so Volcano Lance coming
Shots.
first. Gets 2 shots. That
I'll
is
go ahead
not a
and
1
reroll.
though, so he's debating on if he wants to spend a command point, and he does, and he re-rolls it into a 1.
I do.
Do I get one?
Definitely not the result he was looking for there, but he at least got the re-roll for free.
I get one back. Okay, so 1 Volcano
All right,
Lance
so
shot.
he is able to get the command point back. He's got 1 shot with the Volcano Lance here, and that is a
It's a miss.
miss.
Calls
He's
Wrath.
already used his command point, so he can't re-roll that.
Yeah.
He can
Missing
re-roll
the,
that 1 though because of House Raven.
Reroll ones 'cause of Raven.
So 4 plus 4, he's gonna get 8 shots out of Call's Wrath. Looks like it looks like he's overcharged here,
Oh my God,
so he's
so
gonna be
many
happy to
twos.
re-roll those 1s. But that is a
Jeez.
lot of 2s. So far things are not looking good for this shooting phase for Mike. Pretty decent wound roll there. He's able to get all 4.
That's 3
Um,
damage, right?
Yep.
And you've got.
But looking back, only
That's 3
one of
damage apart.
those invuln saves failed
I'll re-roll.
for Charles. He's gonna go ahead and use his re-roll
See if I
and
get
takes
back.
no damage
Okay.
from Call's Wrath or the Volcano Lance there, and that is not the result that Mike was looking for.
The
Well, I mean,
two-
we saw a
here's the
similar
missile.
result in turn 1 from the other Castellan. So currently, they're just kind of, I guess, feeling each other out.
Yeah, and there's another whiff there for Mike. He hits with the missile, but rolls a 2 on that
So
wound
3,
roll,
6, 9, 10
and he is
shots.
just not getting any output from this Castellan.
Yeah.
9 shots coming on the Siegebreaker here. These ones are strength 7, so he's looking for
Lot of
3s on this roll to hit,
twos.
and now looking for 5s to wound here.
Wow.
And the dice, you know, maybe we see them come back around, but that's definitely not the gun that you're looking for it to happen on.
D3.
So he fails 1 here, just D3 damage. Rerolls that 1. He at least is able to chip through 3 damage on Charles Castellan, but that is definitely not the output you're looking for from your 600-point model.
If you remember game 1,
I did 3.
game 1 the knight needed to warm up too. And then from there, proceeded to kill something every single turn for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and he did get good use out of the Castellan there. The difference here, though, is that instead of a Warden, Mike's Castellan is staring down the mirror match.
Right.
And you only get so many turns before one player decides, okay, this is the turn where I'm going to do the damage.
Right.
So, charges coming in here. Looks like Mike's going to put Mephiston into the scout squad. And here we go. Straight into the combat. All hit, all wounds. Mephiston looking to clean this up. And that is going to be that scout squad. So he's able to secure that kill.
No bonus.
All right, so Mike
You got kill more.
kills 1,
I got
holds 1,
more. 3 primary.
and is able to hold more.
primary.
So
I
3-3
got
on the
recon
primaries there.
and first blood.
Okay.
And Mike able to score 1 point on recon, 1 point on first blood. So it looks like coming out of the first turn, we have a 1 point lead for Mike. He has 5 points to Chris's 4. But you have to imagine he's a bit disappointed
Yeah.
after
Absolutely.
that first turn.
Absolutely. Losing the first turn, losing so many guardsmen, and not being able to retaliate quite as strong. But we'll have to see where it goes, because just as the last game was an example, sometimes it comes down to the bottom of 6. So
Yeah, it certainly can, and both of these players still have plenty of points on the table, plenty of ways to score, and we'll have to see here whether or not that failed round of shooting from Mike Castellan ends up costing him his own night. We do see after that whiff, it looks like Charles is feeling like it's time for this Castellan to get in the mix, moving forward with no fear. But as he does that, okay, hold on, let's make sure I don't leave any openings in this backfield for one of these captains to come in. Now it's interesting, both of these players playing very similar lists. They kind of know the tricks.
right.
And when you're in that situation, it's a little bit easier to remember. Okay, don't leave any pockets. Don't leave any pockets.
Exactly.
Don't leave any pockets.
Exactly.
Just every turn. But yeah, it looks like Charles feeling pretty confident here now. He's pushing up with his Castellan. He's pushing up with his Armigers, and no fear in the face of Mike's army. We'll have to see this turn if he's able to duplicate that just heavy offensive output.
So one thing that's kind of working to Charles' I guess benefit is Walsh is really well known, but Charles isn't from this area. So he's playing another guy across the table. He's not playing, Mike Walsh, defending Barnyard Brawl champion, multiple ITC winner, right? Like that's not what's in his head right now, and you can kind of tell because most people probably wouldn't choose to be so aggressive against somebody like him on turn 2.
Yeah, he's definitely not. He's definitely not at the table intimidated.
No.
He's clearly showing composure here, and while Mike, he's got some notoriety. We're still playing 40K.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And at the end of the day, Charles earned his way here to table 1. There's no reason he shouldn't feel confident in this game.
Yeah.
And we see here him playing with confidence. He's moving forward. He knows that so far this game seems to be a little bit further in his favor.
Yeah.
And he's looking to capitalize on that. So some more forward posturing here. Still leaving just a couple of models on that back line, spaced pretty evenly to make sure that Mike's Blood Angels captains can't go to the skies and come back down for a hit on any of these priority targets. All right, and here is Charles' own captain. Looks like he is choosing to just jump front and center here. Found a pocket in that big circle, and he may be eyeing Mephiston right there at the center. So we'll see how this goes for both players.
Now, which psychic spells did Mike get off on Mephiston?
Mike was able to get off Wings and Quicken.
Okay.
So Mephiston is beefed up, but if the Smash Captain gets to go first,
yeah,
Mephiston may not get the opportunity to crack back. We'll see here.
Bold move, Cotton.
I know.
Now, we were talking about how Charles seems to be feeling like he's got some momentum here, pushing forward, playing a little aggressively. That was an aggressive deep strike.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that right as we were talking about that, he it's almost like he's in the room and he goes, you know what? Let me show you what I can do here.
Yeah, he went from leaning aggressive to falling all the way forward into aggression.
Yep.
So we'll see how it pays off for him, but got some powers come down. It looks like once again he's just looking to give Pask a little bit of extra durability here.
I didn't bring my plasma guys now. Probably for the best.
Now moving into the psychic phase, it looks like Charles may have forgotten to bring in his plasma squad.
Oh no!
Although with that being said,
that's why I didn't. Yeah.
he may be looking for
so
a different opportunity. He just says here, he hadn't planned on bringing the silence down this turn, but based on the way the game has progressed, he may have changed his mind. But he has moved in the psychic phase, so we are past the end of movement, which is the point in the turn where those silence would need to come in. Can't imagine he's going to feel too bad about that, though.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't mind clearing out a little bit more space and making sure that he can get in potentially on something like a character.
So the Scions are another unit that are in the same boat as every other high-quality firepower in his army. Walsh has 3 or 4 targets that are good for that kind of fire. And he's not going to get the bubble wrap out from around the night straight away. So he's got a little bit of time there. he's not going to, he's not going to send it at Mephiston. He's not going to be able to get into a shield captain this turn. So really, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot. They can come down next turn. He's got it in his head now. Don't forget about him, and we'll be able to see what he can do with them next turn.
I'm gonna rotate. So I'm gonna roll to see if I get
It looks
mine.
like we're getting into the meat of the shooting phase
all
here.
three.
Mike has chosen to
So you
rotate
want me?
ion shields once again on his Castellan.
13, 17.
So he's going to be on a
Okay,
3-up
so, yeah,
invulnerable save,
everything
looking for
in line.
threes.
Got it.
Including
And it looks
shield
like
breaker. So
this
we'll start
turn,
with shield breaker.
wasting no
Oh, you don't have the
time,
same luck as me?
Charles is putting
two, one
everything
time. Two.
into the
Come on,
Castellan.
Charlie.
There's
I
3.
don't
That's a
think
wound with
Oh,
the
yeah.
missile.
D6.
So
So
D6.
take that.
He's able to bypass that
supercharge,
invulnerable save with the
Call's
shield
Wrath.
breaker missile. So
For
3
8.
damage down. Here comes Call's Wrath. We've got 8 shots coming in. And Charles is going to be looking for some 3s here. It looks like he has House Raven once again, so he's going to be re-rolling any ones you see on your screen. 3 there. 2 misses so far. Re-rolls.
So no
3
more
misses. 5 hits for Call's Wrath
wounds.
here.
Wound on 3s.
And he's looking for 3s to wound.
Oh.
Definitely overcharged, and he gets all
So
5. So a good batch of shooting out of Call's Wrath so far. 3-ups here for Mike is what he's looking for. He fails 2, and that is going to be a flat
Volcano
6
Lance.
damage. 9 down on the Castellan so far, and a big 6 on the Volcano Lance. That is huge for Charles here. Once again, we see him picking up the pace with these dice every time he feels that momentum building. And we've got 3 wounds. Rerolling that 1, though, thanks to the House Raven stratagem. 4 wounds off of the Volcano Lance.
buddy.
But Walsh is
Gets
able to use
it.
his command
Take it
point and
back.
block all 4 of those
Again.
Volcano Lance shots. That was
I do not.
very important for Mike.
Absolutely.
Number of shots.
So we see the rest of the shooting. Here comes the number of shots out of the shield breaker missiles. Or siege breaker, rather. Siege breaker cannons.
Hitting on 3s.
You'll score 1.
All right,
point
here's the
from
shots.
something.
1 cocked die. Rerolling
Reroll
that.
ones.
Rerolling 1s here in 2s, though, so
one
not
on
too
5s.
good, but that's okay. This is the lower quality
And
gun anyway. 2 saves here for Mike. Looking for 3s. Fails 1. That's going to be D3. Only 1 more point of damage. So it looks like 10 total that have come down on the Castellan so far. That means he's going to remain in his top
Okay.
profile, but some
one of these
tense
guys will
moments
throw,
during that volley of shooting.
frag grenade into those guys. The rest will rapid
So
fire.
one thing I will mention
Frag.
here, and this could just be observation,
Not a wound.
we
So
were just
that's,
talking about
18?
Charles'
Yeah.
composure.
Yeah.
And then
No.
he kind of flips the script on us.
This'll be
He
like
becomes
maybe
extremely
couple less.
aggressive. He jumps right to his big guns when classically he's always saved it for last.
I really want
Yeah, he may be feeling, he may be feeling like I've got a real
we're
shot
not
in this
real
game,
Yeah,
you know, and
absolutely.
the moment may be getting to him a bit,
Right.
but it doesn't appear that it's affecting his decision making.
wound
Yeah,
for, you know,
absolutely.
His Castellan had a great shot there at Mike's, you know, and with some Hellrins and the battle cannon, he may still be able to take the knight down. But we see him after not getting the damage he was probably hoping for out of that phenomenal round of shooting from him, really. He switches back over to a smaller squad, and he's able to take out Mike's scouts there, knock him off of an objective. And we're back to that ordering. He's taking the small arms fire, just a bolt pistol coming out here, little by little working his way towards what will be the most important moments of this shooting
frag
phase.
grenade into the guardsmen and 4 bolt pistols into the scouts.
You got it.
All right,
we'll do
so
bolt
bolt
pistols
pistols coming into some scouts here,
3 hits. 2 wounds.
looking for some
This is
wounds.
on
Gets
scout?
2. Mike gonna take his saves.
So 1. And then
1 dies. That's gonna leave
gonna
1
do,
scout remaining, I believe. And
another shot.
frag grenade coming into the guardsman
Yeah.
in that same area. So 5 shots,
And
3
we're
hits.
moving on 4s.
Looking for 4s, gets 2. Mike able to make a save, 1 guardsman down,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna put 1 wound on my mortar.
Sure thing.
but not too much damage coming out from the scouts there. Charles, though, still has his mortars to work with, and a couple of Hellrins and some heavy bolters out of pass. So he's got quite a bit of shooting still left. Maybe the big guns out of the way, but plenty of dice still left to roll in this shooting phase for Charles.
So like one of these guys can shoot.
Might get to see Pask teach the knight how to do it, right?
We'll find out. I don't know if the battle cannon
Miss all the
has
shots in the face.
has an angle on the knight, but we'll see
Rejected at
here.
the rim.
Cool. Okay. Damn, Pask, what are you doing? He'll put the heavy bolters into that Guard squad, I guess.
All right,
They're
Charles
36.
putting the heavy bolters into the guard squad, it
I
looks
think
like.
they are, but you want to measure it up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he'll put the battle cannon.
Trying to decide where this
Hey,
battle
listen to
cannon's
that
going to go
squad.
here.
Yeah, you got it.
And it
Just
looks
the one
like
in the
he's
back.
just going to put it into
Oh no, he moved
the,
less than 5. That's why I only moved 5.
Okay.
the other guard
So two,
squad
so-
that's a little
But
bit
he doesn't
further
get the real
back.
ones. Can I see him?
So,
I don't
Pask
think
here
so.
Okay, that's fine.
moved
so,
half of his distance,
if I can't see
Right.
him,
which
let's
means he's
put
going to
it
get to double
into-
tap that battle cannon. But he did move, so he's
Oh,
not going to
actually,
get
I thought these
the full
Rough Riders were pretty
re-rolls.
No, I can't see them.
I
So-
don't think he can see
There's so
shit.
much terrain.
Checking to
Good,
see,
but not so bad.
Charles is doing one last
Yeah,
check here
okay,
with
yeah.
Pass to see if there's
So
any
he'll put
other
the
targets that
battle
might be a
cannon into
little
the squad
higher
and the heavy
priority.
bolters into the-
Would have loved to put the battle cannon into those
No,
Rough
just
Riders or
fucking put
potentially
everything
into some mortars. But with Pask not being
firing
quite as
everything
tall of a
in
knight,
Yeah, everything. No, sorry,
it
everything.
does not
into the
appear as though
guardsman.
there's
Yeah.
as
How many
as
battle
though there's
cannons
going to
are
be
there?
any shots
It's
going into the
2d6.
mortars or into the
And
Rough Riders.
I'm gonna reroll
So
the numbers.
heavy bolters
And what else? You have the
coming in
Helverins and
on the
mortars?
guardsmen.
Helverins and mortar, yes.
And the battle cannon's -2.
And
Mike here just double checking to make sure he's got the
I'll take
profile.
cover.
okay, do I get one?
He decides to take cover here against the heavy bolters, try and negate that -1
Alright,
armor
so these
modifier so
are
that he
hitting
can
on
still
threes
take
'cause he
saves on
moved.
5-ups.
And he's not rerolling.
Alright, so here's the heavy bolters.
That's pretty sad. We're hitting on 3s because he moved. Wounding on 3s.
And this is the heavy
Alright,
bolters.
hitting on 3s, wounding on
So
3s,
-1
pretty
plus
healthy
1 to
amount
5s.
of damage coming down here. Mike's gonna make some, or be looking for some 5-ups here. He's able to make 2.
Okay.
3 guardsmen die. Can't be too disappointed with that. He's gonna go ahead and pull the mortar.
Okay.
It looks like the mortar already had a
And then we're
wound, so
going
that's where
to-
that first wound was allocated.
Battle cannon.
Gonna leave
shots.
himself with some Catishans
3
that can
shots.
hopefully fight here, though.
These are hitting on 2.
Alright.
Because it's a grinding advance.
So here's the battle
3
cannon.
wounds, -2.
So 6 is?
Yeah.
Able to put down 3 wounds at -2. 6-ups here for Mike. Looks like he is not
They
gonna
all
get
dead.
it.
No. Second shot. 4.
Alright, here's the second volley from the
Yeah,
battle
fair,
cannon.
man.
4 shots.
Yeah, man. Hey.
They hit on 2s or 3s?
4 hits.
He hits on 2s because the grinding advance doesn't get a subtractant from that. So 3 of
And
them.
3 wounds here. Mike on 6-ups once again. He's able to
Big
make
one.
1.
My sergeant's alive.
Ugh. Didn't get him.
And that means that the sergeant and that guard squad will be left alive. Although with those Blood Angel scouts looming, we have to imagine there's probably a charge imminent. All right, so with that most forward projected guard squad dead, it looks like Charles here trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do with these mortars, and they may be coming into the Rough Riders.
So number of shots. 17.
A big 17 coming out of this first mortar squad. Charles really has been rolling hot on the shots for these mortars. So here we go. Let's see how much damage it looks like they are targeting the Rough Riders. So he's got take aim, and he is Cadian. So he's going to be re-rolling all of the misses here. So you see him collecting everything that was below a 4 here, push those other dice to the side, and pick up a pretty healthy amount of additional hits
so
there.
one on
That's
threes.
a great looking batch of shots. And these are going to be wounding on, if they're shooting at the Rough Riders,
Should be winning on 4s.
they
3s.
may be at a different unit of guardsmen. We'll see here.
Well, that was
Mike
actually not
accepting
bad. I did
the
two.
saves here.
3 dead.
So that's 3 dead. And it looks like that was at the Rough Riders. They may be toughness 3. Get a quick check on that here. But Charles overseeing the battlefield here, figuring out what to do with the second mortar squad. We'll see if he pops off another 17
Yeah.
shots. Not quite this
7?
time. In fact, just 7.
I'm not gonna shield well.
Thank you.
But
That's-
can't be
that's
all that
acceptable,
disappointed
man.
considering the first
I think I
batch.
did the play so far.
Reroll from Cadian.
All right, so here's the re-rolls from the
Okay.
take
So you're
aim.
saying there's a chance.
No additional
There's
hits
the
there,
damage.
but
Those
here's the
Rough Riders
wounds.
are gonna
2.
ook those guardsmen and the duker. Make both. Fuck.
Leaves another one on
Or
1.
not.
Yep.
I want my sergeant.
Mike here deciding which of these last 2 Rough Riders to
Okay.
pull.
You guys can get up too.
Figuring out if he's going to be able to get onto the objective if he
Starting to
pulls
deadly.
the
Alright.
front model. Looks not, so he's going to leave that frontmost Rough Rider.
Damn, double.
All right, Helvrin trying to figure out where he wants to, or Charles rather, figuring out where he wants to target with his Helvrin.
Yeah, you can see his butt. He'll put the 36, the and you're down to 18.
All right.
I'm moving on 5s. I don't want to do that.
So
Right,
Charles here trying to
da-da.
figure out
We'll
how
put
much more
the
damage
big
does he
gun
want to
into these
try and
guys.
put on the
This is
Castellan
a
this
small
turn.
one squad.
Since he can't kill it and he knows
So,
Mike can spend 1 command point to
3
have it
shots
shoot
at the
fight
guy.
at full profile, looks like he's not
Unfortunately,
even going to
3 wounds.
take the
3
shots with the Helverin
No
at
aim.
the Castellan. So we see the small arms fire coming in
Dead.
on that last Rough Rider. And that would kill it.
Command
It
point
looks
right
like
from him.
Mike trying to
Yeah, I did,
determine
yeah, you hit him.
if he's going to use a reroll here, but it looks like the players remember
number
he
of
used
shots.
one earlier when his knight was being shot by the
6,
volcano
7,
land.
8.
So not able to use the reroll there, and that is going to finish off the Rough Rider squad.
That was in there.
So here are the
Threes,
autocannon
wounding on
shots.
2s.
Wounded on
All
2s
those
here, just
6
shooting
up saves.
into some guardsmen. And these are 6-up saves here for Mike.
No.
Is not able to get any of them.
Flat
It's
So that's going to
flat
be
3, yeah.
6
So they
dead
got
guardsmen.
bloated up. Okay,
Mike gonna
and then
pull
we'll
those
shoot
models.
the last
Starting to look
Helverin.
pretty thin in this backfield, and he has not really been able to push up with his characters yet. It's going to be tough for Mike to retake the center of the board here, especially considering there's still a couple of Blood Angel scout squads. There's that Smash Captain still hoping to get on Mephiston this turn. You know, we see turn 1 and turn 2 both incredibly productive for
Yep.
Charles.
Shoot everything into
Yep.
this squad.
Charles having a great couple of rounds here. Where we thought we were going to see a lot of
So I
forward
killed
aggression,
before now?
the
Or no,
first
2.
turn
You're red.
going to Charles
Huh.
really gave him
So
the
3
opportunity to
shots,
just
super.
neuter that.
Top
Yeah,
one.
going
So-
first in this game was
one wound.
absolutely key.
1 wound.
Yeah. On those, yes.
All right,
Just-
looks
Roll
like
everything.
Okay, yeah. That
just
makes
a
sense.
single
How do you
wound coming
take
through
cover
here,
with
but
those guys, yeah.
So one
One
does.
wound.
3, 4, 5, 6,
I'm
7,
just
8.
gonna put on my mortar.
Sure.
all right, so 1 wound comes through
That was
on the
terrible.
mortar here. That's
Double.
guard squad that
Nice.
Mike brought on from the edge of the table along with his company commander getting shot at here.
Flat.
And that
Ooh,
looks
should've shot
like
the first gun.
1 guardsman and the mortar dead here.
Well. All right.
See.
So here we go.
Joke's on you. I'm running out of shit to kill.
No, you still got all those. Damn, man.
Mike commenting here about how productive of an offensive turn Charles is having. He says, well, look, the joke's on you. I'm running out of stuff to kill.
Whatever. So kill Mephiston.
You're gonna biff Mephiston.
I know, I
He's
am.
gonna like dunk that guy.
Dude,
take his butt to
totally.
sin,
All
then
right,
he's gonna go
so
kill your Castellan.
we're moving to the charge
Probably.
phase here.
I'm gonna.
Charles and Mike having a good back and forth. But
Descent of Fire? Or
Descent.
Descent
Two,
of Angels. Descent of Angels.
2
There we
points
go.
getting
those.
spent here for
right.
Descent of Angels.
No.
So you're
Those
5.
would
I'm
allow
gonna roll not one of
his
those
captain
dice, 'cause
to
those dice
charge
are
on
bad.
3d6 here.
Damn it. Okay.
Those dice are
No,
bad.
you're gonna roll
We'll
these.
see
when you
if
roll a
he's
hit.
able to get this charge
No.
off. So he's
come
going to
on.
need a 9 on
So
3
3d6
dice,
charge,
and
re-rolling.
he's going to be able to re-roll it.
Nope.
That is a 7.
Okay.
Come
He's
on.
going to go ahead and
do
use
this,
his
right?
reroll.
You're saying there's a chance. Oh, that's
And that is an 8.
Oh, wow.
He does not make the charge
Well.
with the reroll.
Woo!
And
Those
that
guys are gonna
is
charge.
exactly the kind of opening that
bolt
Mike
pistol
needs in this game.
and regular.
And
flat
for a
pistol.
moment, there was light.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to imagine, you know, Mike looking for a break, looking
Yeah.
for an opportunity to get back into this game. And if there was ever a break, that is it. He now has an opportunity to, with that captain as far forward as it is, he may get shot at by
Yeah, just
mortars and guardsmen
completely
here.
alone.
He may not even need to charge it with any of his characters and risk the crackback.
Right.
But we do get a successful charge.
These are the
Some
scouts
scouts
here.
into
Well, so my
that
wife says
last
all the
scout
time,
and
"You
that
guys
last
have a lot of
guardsman
my 40
to
kids
see if they
back
can
then."
finish the job
It's
here.
just a part of being a female that's friends with.
Yeah. Here's one
Charles
more
has
Is this
been
all into the scout, or did
surprising
you
in this
split it?
game, where we
Or did you-
thought
I didn't know those
he
were
would
two
be the
separate
one
units.
putting up
it's a sarge and
almost
it's a
like a
sarge.
counterplay,
Whatever,
almost
the
like a
scout.
defensive
didn't-
reaction.
It's fine.
The
I-
opening
sorry,
turn
I just
allowed him to
interrupted
do
you.
so much
One of them's got
forward
gold.
I know.
damage
I understand. I
Yeah.
for
understand.
moving
God, I
almost
worked
half
so
of Mike's
hard to
guard
paint his
option
shoulder pad
out of
gold,
the gate.
just so you would know.
That
So a bunch, I'm gonna make all these
It
for
gave
us.
him this kind of huge
No,
push
or he's
forward
super dead.
and allowed
Yeah,
him to
it really
make
did.
some
I mean, I
really
can,
brave plays, and they've paid off for the most part. But now we're going to find out
We're gonna do this.
what happens when you go a little too far forward.
I'm gonna come kill
Yeah,
you.
potentially here. He's
Man,
definitely,
you think that's
you know,
not gonna happen, but
3d6
they're
with a
really good.
reroll, you're typically feeling pretty confident
Absolutely.
about that smash captain and getting
Absolutely.
in combat. And if he was able to take out
So his
Mephiston
three
or even a
attacks.
couple of IG characters there, that could have been a
You killed
massive
guys out of that
payoff for
squad,
him.
right? So he
Absolutely.
has
It
one out.
alleviates
He does,
a
yeah.
lot of
So
you know,
his,
Mike's ability
two
to
base chain
counterpunch, right?
Yep.
2 hits.
But now with that captain just hanging out in the
Ooh,
wind,
ooh.
Don't do it
could
too
be
much.
some real trouble.
Oh, got him.
Oh
Got
no! And we see here,
You thought
it looks
that
like
it's not gonna happen like that, and then it happened like that.
it looks like those Blood Angel scouts
Well, there
that
goes
have come in on
Yeah,
Mike
frickin'
with the
5
charge,
point
failing to
loss.
finish
Now
the
he's gonna
job
back
on
out.
that last scout from Mike's side, and a punch back in the
Alright,
chin.
well,
He's able to take it down. These players, though,
So,
having
yeah,
a
so
great
he
time
needs
at the
to-
table. Some
Absolutely.
good banter back and forth.
Absolutely.
They're loving every minute of it. And what's not to love, right?
Yeah,
You're getting
right,
to play a
for
game,
sure.
you're having fun, and you're at table
So,
1. You might as
can't-
well relish in it.
Exactly.
Squad
You
loss.
cannot help,
Have
no
you
matter
coded
what
in that
side
squad?
you're on, cheering
So I'm just
for a
gonna roll this
guardsman
one,
in
so
close
2.
combat with Space Marines, even if it's not your guardsman. You know.
Lost
Yeah.
6, and they're on a 7.
And
Almost a
you, if
4 was
you
that
hear
That
Mike,
was the third.
got him.
Hold on,
Yeah.
So,
don't fuck that up.
So I killed
Yep.
discard squad.
And
One,
A little
kudos
bit
to
of
the-
memeing happening out there at the table, but
I think that's
the
it.
players totaling up
Because you
what
didn't count
Chris was able to do on this turn here.
Send that for you. Happy
Definitely able to kill one, hold one. No
so let's
bonus
see.
though. The bonus on the
So
primary
if
objective for
I-
this game, player has to hold all 4 objectives, which is pretty difficult.
So over here I'm lead 7.
But
and
he is
play
able to
lost
secure
6
a couple
models.
of Kingslayer points on the Castellan
Dice -1.
Yep.
You know what,
with the
this better be
damage he
2
put
right here.
down that
No.
turn, so
Okay.
able to pick up some secondaries.
You got it. Congratulations.
And
I'm fearless, that
a
guy.
past morale check
You get
there.
one of those? I do.
That was aggressive how you threw that.
I'm sorry.
I need you to not do that. I take back my reasonable comment. So here's to see if I
But
can get my fearless.
Charles
I don't.
feeling pretty good. He's able to pick up a
Put this
command
on a
point
daily
there. So
basis
even
or
though he's
just
not
like
able to
you
finish
call
off that
and talk to
squad,
him frequently?
still feeling
'Cause if
pretty
you-
good.
I'm sorry.
And so I go up. What am I at now? 7?
You're at 6.
You-
We're at
okay, you already
5,
put it.
11 to 6.
11 to 6. Cool.
You've killed 3 things.
All right. Well.
Mike
I
here
hold something,
potentially
kill something.
exhibiting some of those wily veteran tactics,
Yep.
You,
having
how
a
many
little
did
bit
you
of
fucking
fun
do
with the
to him?
game,
10?
up the tempo a little
So you got
bit,
2 on him.
and see if he can
None on
get
Headhunter.
break some of that
No
momentum
more, and
that
we'll see
Charles
kill
had
one,
there.
hold
You
one,
know,
no bonus.
overall,
You currently
even
hold
with the failed charge on the Smash Captain, that was a very successful
Right,
turn
right,
for
right.
Charles.
Okay.
2 in a
He's
row.
able to get some kills down, but those
Any
last couple of
that
things,
one or
Yep.
the
both?
last 2 things that happened in that turn
Mhm.
definitely went in Mike's
Easy, no
favor.
problem.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Had it.
And with that, we could
many
see,
kills
you
were
know,
you
the
getting? So you
emotions
killed
at the
this
table
squad.
swing. If Mike's able to have a good
He's
turn
really
here,
bad.
Yeah.
he could take a lot of the wind out of Charles's sails, and see if he can
So I'm
maybe
just
put
being
him on the
really
back foot.
anticlimactic, and I'm just gonna
But
say
either
this.
way, Mike still has an uphill battle from
Oh,
this
yeah.
point in this game.
Math
Absolutely.
does have
And
wins,
to be
so
fair,
he could
Mike's
make
do a
big
good
ball of
turn.
play to
Charles has
potentially
had
go
some
for, like,
incredible turns in the last couple of games.
I didn't.
He absolutely
And
has.
his even in the last game, his opponent had just an incredible round of bad luck on turn 3, and so we'll
Make
see
sure
what
that scout
happens
isn't-
if this luck continues to swing his way. Because the fact of the matter is that despite the fact he's the defending
Do they have
champion,
plasma? I assume?
Walsh can't afford to take
really-
too many
they have
rounds like
chainsaws.
this.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Mike is on the
That's
back foot in this game. He's going to have to pull
Yeah,
himself
yeah,
back
because
into
they're-
it. You know, he's definitely a player who's capable of doing that. You don't win GTs without coming from behind in a couple of games.
Absolutely.
But certainly an uphill battle. You know, I think when we were talking through things at the beginning of the game, we may have underestimated that there is just, regardless of if it's more skewed towards quality, there's still a threshold for volume of shooting
Absolutely.
that comes out of
Don't be
Charles's
like that,
army that was
Charlie.
able to handle those first couple of waves of guard.
No,
And,
that's good.
So
I'm-
Mike,
I'm
once
jealous
again, you
of
know,
it.
looking to plan out his turn here, figuring out exactly where he wants each model to end up.
Charles not looking. He went from the perch to the thinking man position there for a second.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah, definitely, like I said, feeling a loss of momentum at the end of that turn, but you know, he displayed a lot of resiliency in the first game. I don't think we're gonna see him too shook here. He's likely just thinking, okay, what did I give up? How many points is it gonna be? And what do I have to do to make sure that I keep a lead?
Maybe not quite so much ass.
All right, so we have here some guardsmen. What's left of that squad advancing up the right angle. Still looking to cut off angles just in case, project out, make sure he's not being pushed all the way back into his own deployment zone.
So I could land here.
Checking some angles here. It looks like there may be an opening on the Helvrin. Mike may choose to take advantage of that with one of the Smash Captains. Now, he'd be pretty far forward, but if he's able to get a good angle, he might be able to tuck in behind some line-of-sight blocking terrain, protect his captain from the Castellan. And to be fair, even if the Castellan is able to target the captain, he may rather have the shots going there than onto his own knight.
Absolutely.
So here comes some Cattersons moving up on this scout squad here. Mike's scout has fallen back since he was able to kill one of the scouts out of Charles's unit there. He creates an opening that allows him to fall back, which means these guards are gonna be able to first rank, second rank into those scouts, and he may be able to clean that unit out here and retake that left flank.
In my life have I heard Mephiston referred to as juicy. He does not
So
wear
one of the
juicy
things that we
couture.
discussed, and is still very true,
As long as it's not on
Walsh
his dress.
has substantially more to lose before he starts to see penalties than Charles does. So
So my wife has a
even
pair of
this
pants that
many
say
models
that.
down,
the juicy.
the return
she's-
fire
well, she's
puts
trained really
Charles
well,
on the back foot that much faster. So the pressure that Mike has to exert doesn't have to come in as quickly as Charles's
Okay, so
does.
if I kill this guy,
So-
Yeah, and you know, it's possible based on the way those first couple of turns
All of
went
that bad
that
things that
Charles
could
may not
come
have needed to play as
get
aggressively as he
stomped.
did.
Right.
You know, he was advantaged. He was ahead in the wound count
he's
on the
actually
on the Castellans.
yeah,
You know, he's cleared out more of Mike's infantry. But you know, looking at the score at the end of the first turn, Mike did have just a very slight lead, and Charles may have felt a little bit pressured to take the lead. You know, by the end of the second turn. We'll see here, though. You know, at the end of the day, the 9-inch charge on the 3 dice with the reroll is pretty good odds
Yeah.
to get there. It definitely happens on average. With the reroll, it's well above average. But we we see here, you know, what can happen when things do go wrong. And we'll see we'll see what Mike's able to get done here. So looks like he's going to keep the Castellan where it's at. Just double checking the distances. The players, you may have noticed there, just adjusted the terrain a little bit, both noting verbally to each other that they know where the terrain is, but they don't want to risk
Right.
tilting the Castellan right there on the edge of
Exactly.
the table. Just trying to keep the models safe.
It's referred to as wobbly model syndrome, and they actually discuss it in the rule book. They say it's more important that the model you've worked on, spend the time on, is taken care of than you set it sideways on some precarious post and it break.
Yeah, because you killed. Well, so you would have killed my whole fucking army by turn 3, so it probably would have gone bad.
Yeah, that's true. But you still got a lot of
Mike there commenting on, you know, with the way that Charles played that last turn, if the
Just
Smash
imagine what
Captain
you
had got in,
Or-
it's entirely possible that he would have been tabled by the end of that third turn, or close
Right.
close
You
to
know
it.
what? I'm gonna hit those guys
but with the
Star
opening-
Fighters.
All right. Do they have pistols too, at least?
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And
All right.
chainswords and lances and horses.
Mike now
horses and stuff.
people were like
talking through, figuring out if he's going to bring these Rough Riders in, and if so, where.
put all the pistols on
Characters moving up.
stuff and rolling around, but I guess they cost too much.
Trying to figure out exactly how much distance he wants to leave between him and the Smash Captain here.
Just to get that objective. If you send your Mephiston to trade my Mephiston,
Mike just
I'll be
talking
fine.
through his options. He's placed Mephiston there. Remember, though, with that Wings of Sanguinius psychic power that Mephiston can cast, he does have the ability to just suddenly move 12 inches in any direction.
So he's just moving.
One Smash Captain moving forward.
So I think I'm gonna wing.
That looks like the Kurovs,
So
Captain.
Does he have the relic?
or the VT Captain,
the dude with
rather.
the wings is
The
the
Angel's
one
Wings
that
Captain. Staying a little bit further back. Mike may be thinking about wingsing onto this Helvrin.
Like assures me getting,
And that could create a great point of
he's gonna
pressure
do
for Mike.
or he's gonna opponent wings of
Didn't
fire.
we,
on the
didn't we
map.
determine that the Bulgars were in the ruins?
Yeah, there's just the one bodyguard, I believe, that is back in there. I think he's standing
He's up in
near
that
the Grand Strategist Commander.
Gotcha.
Oh, you know what? It actually looks like that may be him
Yeah, wherever
Uh,
he can be.
just over the top of the Castellan on the far left of the shot there, along the back line. And I believe he did move that out so that he could eliminate any pockets for Mike to drop it on. But there is the captain, and it looks like that is the Angel's Wings captain. So no Overwatch for the Helverin here. We're going to see if Mike can make that 9-inch charge that Charles was looking for on the last turn. But that could provide a great beachhead for him. You know, if he's able to provide some significant pressure on that side of the table, potentially even keep the captain outside of line of sight for something like Pask, and get a kill on the Helverin, that could be a really strong bright spot for Mike on this turn.
Depending on how big the charge is, if Walsh can get to the other side of the Warglaive, he can consolidate toward the Grand Strategist HQ.
Potentially, yeah.
In the Ruin. And if he gets in the Ruin, he's completely line of sight blocked. Now, if he can't, alternatively, he can tuck behind the turbine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to tell the exact distance. I'm sure, you know, that'll be something that he's considering, and the players will talk through that. But either way, he's got a couple of choices there for what terrain he wants to try and hide behind. But here comes some Rough Riders tucking in behind this bastion, and it looks like he is planning, you know, with Charles here pushing center with his Helverin, with the Castellan, and even moving Pask a bit more towards that center. It looks like Mike is trying to create a scenario where he's sweeping back around from the outer flanks of what was originally Charles's deployment zone. See if he can kind of collapse in. I actually was able to catch a little bit of his third round game. Where he played against a Chaos Demons player, and he employed a very similar strategy. And it paid off big for him. He was able to pull out an incredibly tight game just by a couple of points to stay alive in this bracket, get himself to table 1. All right, so we're into the psychic phase here. Meph casting Smite, and that's going to fail. And here comes Quicken. So that's good. He's got a 10 there, and that means that he's got the D3 extra attacks. And,
well, he's got
and also an extra 3 inches on his charge roll.
He's not within 12, is he? No.
Goes off.
All right, so an attempt to deny there by Charles. He does roll a 10, but the +1 on the denied witch from the Psychic Hood, only 12-inch range, and his own Mephiston not quite close enough to deny there. So the Quicken does go off. Ooh, a Perils there. Mike's going to go ahead and re-roll it for the Astropath. Unfortunately, still fails the power, but he does save his Astropath. And since that was the last Psychic power, he doesn't have to worry about re-rolling anything else in that phase. He is able to recoup that command point, so he gets to re-roll for free. Got to feel a little safer with his Astropath at full strength. Because an Astropath, you can just lose it in one roll to that Perils.
He doesn't need to do... I guess he'll issue move to himself.
All right, so we see orders coming out here. Move on one of the company commanders. And we'll see if that first rank, second rank comes through on that troop squad.
He's going to issue move to himself.
All right, we see another commander here just leveraging that move once again. Continuing to maintain some spacing. You know, Mike doesn't want to create any opportunities here. And with a few guard squads still alive on the table, he does still have some screening for his characters.
Move him and then move them.
Gotcha. So he's a commander.
It's funny, where we thought we would see the play would be the mortars aiming at the mortars. And literally in both cases, they have shot at everything except.
They may have deployed just a little bit outside of 48 from each other. It's something that I've seen in the mirror match before. It's, you know, kind of both players deciding, all right, neither of us want to just take the coin flip to go first. So instead, we're both just going to get to shoot with our mortars this game. And now, you know, Mike with the extra 3, 9 versus 6 coming out of Charles's list may have felt that that was probably in his best interest. And we see another move order targeting another guard squad, and with that, Mike is pushing up on that objective near the top of the table. Looks like he's hoping to clear Charles's troops off of that objective so that he can hold it at the end of this turn. Now, we spoke a lot about how Charles was able to build an early lead and just kill a ton of models by going first here. But we may start to see the benefit of going second given to Mike, because he's able to recapture those objectives and score that hold more at the end of the turn. We'll see if that's enough, though, because kill more definitely coming through for Charles on that first turn and may happen again here. So we see the shooting begin. Mike looking for 5s here on this wound roll. And pretty good roll there. Some saves
Okay.
coming down, and that
That's it?
is going to kill, it looks like, the whole squad. So he's able to use that first rank, second rank to
Okay.
get the
This
scouts
mortar team is gonna
dead.
Shoot your captain.
And that means he's going to hold with his single scout that objective.
That's
All right, here comes mortars. It's 11 shots out of the first mortar squad. And take aim, not cast here, so he's not going to have rerolls, but going to be wounding on 4s here, so he's shooting at another unit of scouts. Both saves made, though. All right, and with no damage out of that first mortar squad, Mike looks here to be debating between targeting the guardsmen or some scouts. We'll see what he decides to go with.
Rapid fire. Will you see if I'm within 12 there?
Oh, my guards or my.
All right, players checking the distance here to see if he can rapid fire
So he's gonna fire bolter shot.
on
See if
the
I'm
smash captain there at the center of the table.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he did. This guy didn't. He's gonna fire one bolter shot.
All right, so some small arms fire, just some bolters and bolt pistols coming off of Mike's characters here to see if he can chip a point or two off of the Angels Wings captain. He definitely would have liked to get some mortal wounds from the smite. Those mortal wounds get all the way around that 3-up invuln save
Right.
that the smash captain has. And it looks like he's able to chip through one.
Mass plasma pistol.
But the plasma gun coming in here
He's within 6.
for Mike looks like a whiff.
Captain.
Oh, but he does get to reroll one because he's within 6 inches of the captain. Mephiston hits on 2s. He's able to get the wound there. Would love to chip through a couple of damage, but no go. Smash captain able to make his 3 up there.
Let me do some range testing right here. So 27 and a half.
All right, looks like Mike here checking to see the distance between the Castellan and the captain.
I already moved.
Oh yeah.
I was just checking range.
Trying to figure out if killing this guard squad is going to give him an angle to put some shooting from the Castellan into the smash captain. And it looks like we're at that critical point in the turn where Mike is trying to decide what to do with this Castellan.
Do you want to play the stratagem?
Oh no, I'm not firing him yet.
Oh, okay.
So one of the benefits
these
to
3 mortars
killing the slam
at
captain
that guard
with,
squad.
Okay, I'll take cover.
you know, the shooting phase rather than the combat phase is you don't risk whatever
say
model
same
you're
here.
putting in
See if I
combat
get
with
it.
him.
Yeah, so
No.
there is a big risk going into the Smash Captain because the Blood Angels have the ability, like most of the Imperium characters, to where if their character dies,
9,
they can
11,
spend some command
12.
points in order to
You got a
fight
3 if they
before
can fight,
removing
right?
the model.
2, 6,
And
5
with
is
the amount of
14, right?
damage that these characters do back and forth at each other,
3,
what
6,
you
9.
end up seeing a lot if you have a Blood Angels character fighting another Blood Angels character is that they just end up trading.
Right.
And with the amount of models that Mike has lost and the deficit he's found himself in the beginning here, he'd rather +1 than trade. So we see some mortars coming out here. Pretty
Well,
healthy
guys,
amount of
you can do
wounds. Looks like these are going into the
Ooh, that's not
guardsmen.
bad.
That's a pretty good one.
And some great saves there. Only 2 guard dead
How many guys do you have within the
from
objective
those
range?
mortars.
I think I have 2 and you have 2 as well, but we can figure it
Yeah,
out.
check my mortar real quick.
So I don't think he's in. Are we doing it from the center or the outside?
The edge.
So yeah, I think he's in.
Players here once again
So
just
in that
checking some
case, I also
distances,
have 3 though, 'cause
whether it be rapid fire.
So how many guys would I
for
have
the
to
shooting
kill
here.
in that squad?
1, 2, 3, 4,
Wants to make
5,
sure he
6.
gets every die.
To kill 6. Well, that's not happening.
So what do you have?
All right,
left?
Mike
Just one
here
more thing in the
trying to
night?
figure out if there's still a chance that he can kill 6 models from that guard squad. But it looks like that is not
gonna
likely based
fire
on the
the
shooting that
mortars
he's
at
got
the
left,
guard.
unless he's going to
Okay.
commit the Castellan
So
to
it's
it.
8.
8 mortar shots coming in here. This unit
So you have
was
6
able to
left?
get the take aim, so we
No,
see
you
some
need to kill
rerolls come
6.
in
I
on
have
those
8.
ones.
Or 9 left. Sorry. 8. Because I just lost
3.
2. That's the first
All right,
one.
some wounds. So
So
3
four-
wounds coming through here.
2 more.
2 more dead, so that's going to leave Charles with 6 models left in that unit, down from 8. Not finished yet, though, if Mike wants to hold this objective without it being contested.
So I need to kill 3 more to tie it.
We need to kill 4 because I'm gonna pull these 3, and then we'll both have 3.
I just meant.
Oh, it's a tie. Yeah,
It's a
sorry.
tie.
I thought my bad.
Yeah, so Mike here checking to see how many of these guardsmen
I'm
he
gonna
needs to kill in
do-
order to tie
So I'm gonna do my knight next.
on that objective.
You wanna play
If
with
he's
that?
able to
I'm gonna
tie
House
there, that
Raven.
means he would hold
Or see if I
2,
get it.
while Charles only holds
I
1,
don't
and that
House
is
Raven, so I'm
enough
down
to
to
get the
8.
to get hold
If you
more.
get it.
So he needs to kill exactly
Okay,
3
so
more
as far as
models
shooting
out of
goes,
this squad.
I'm gonna do both Siegebreaker missiles.
All right, so
or,
here
I'm sorry,
comes the
both Siegebreaker
Castellan.
cannons at the guard squad.
House Raven stratagem used. Both
I'm gonna
Siege Grader
t-
cannons coming at the guardsmen. And we'll see what he decides to do with the
Fire.
big guns.
Says something about the
Volcano
importance of
Lance
objective control in a game like this when
and
you're willing to
Both
take
big guns here.
the kind of firepower
To all rotate.
that the
Okay, so
Castellan
both big guns
offers
here,
and dedicate a portion
both
of it to killing
shoulder cannons
3
here,
guardsmen.
Yeah.
and
It's
missile-
it's crazy how in a game where there are 2
yeah.
600-point models,
And then
sometimes
rotating,
killing
so-
3 guardsmen is more important. But
No,
Mike
for-
does choose to put Call's Wrath and the Volcano
see
Lance
if I get any for
into
using my Oathbreaker.
the opposing Castellan.
No, you don't have to use the stratagem though, because he's
Oh,
the
yeah,
closest.
okay,
I
you're
mean,
right.
if you want to, feel free.
No, you're right. My bad. Okay.
You can get one for
Um,
me rotating though.
And so
Okay.
there's
so
the
here's
rotating
missile
of the
at
ion
bottom.
shields there.
Hits.
So Charles'
that's
Castellan going to be on his
So two's
3-up
good enough.
invulnerable save.
So damage.
Mhm.
I get to reroll that for free.
All right, so House Raven allowing Mike to re-roll the 1 on
Does he have
the
force?
damage roll there.
Oh, you got him on the.
And that is a kill on the Angels Wheaton captain thanks to the
4d3
missile
at the
coming out of the
squad.
Castellan. So that's got to feel good for
1, 2,
Mike. He doesn't
3,
have to
4, 5,
risk
6, 7, 8,
Mephiston
9,
or
10.
any of his other melee characters in order to kill the Smash Captain. Tough break for Charles there with that model, but it did absorb a decent amount of shooting out of Mike's army this turn. So here are the Siegebreaker shots coming in on that guard squad, and Mike wants to see some
Twos with
damage
a
here.
reroll, right?
So this is 2s with a
So
reroll,
just
thanks to
5
that House Raven stratagem. So a full house, and we're going to see Charles here need to roll some 5-ups. That looks like a pretty good roll,
So
but that
reroll.
is 4
Try and
dead,
find the objective.
and that is enough to give Mike the objective.
Yeah.
so Mike there putting in some work in order to give himself hold more on this turn. The squad is still alive. We'll have to see if Charles needs to fearless them in order
right
to
now I've
deny a
killed 2
kill
things.
point.
Okay.
But
So the
at
guns
this
up
point in the
okay.
turn,
Yeah,
Mike has
Volcano
killed
Lance.
2 units. But here comes the
3,
Volcano Lance, a
5.
big 5 here on the shots. He likes to see that.
The ones,
He's going to re-roll this 1, see if he can get an extra hit, but that is a couple of misses.
3s.
And 3's here to wound,
Oh,
and
fuck
that is
you,
2
twos.
2s.
Sorry.
Another
That's
poor bout of shooting
yep.
from the Volcano Lance.
I'll command point that one.
You got it.
And
Made it.
Charles going to
Do I
choose to
get it
command
back?
point that 1.
I do.
See if I
So
get it
he
back.
does get the reroll for free, and he does make the save.
Harley.
Tough break there
Dang
for
it.
Mike.
He's
These
staying
Volcano
alive.
Lances
Yeah,
just
it's
don't
like
seem
grind.
to want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll see
he
if
told
Call's
me.
Wrath can get some
He was
damage
like,
down here.
"Crap."
Still flat 3 damage on this gun, so
Brian said he was really
anything
juicy,
he's able to
dude. I
push
didn't
through
see
here
it.
could have a significant impact on the
initially,
Castellan.
The Mephistons are juicy.
All right,
So one thing to stop and
Castellan,
consider is
or the, I'm sorry,
Mike
Call's Wrath,
has
64.
opened up
Yeah,
this
yeah,
situation
64.
where, yeah, the Slam Captain's dead, but there are still plasma scions.
There definitely are, and his Castellan has already taken a healthy amount of damage. So looking for 3s here, gets to reroll that 1, but a couple of 2s. Not a terrible batch of wounds there for Mike. Here we see the saves come through. It looks like only 2 failed, so that's 6 damage through on the Castellan.
So that's 2
That is going to give Mike a Kingslayer point. Every wound on this Castellan matters, even if it's still standing at the end of the game. Just 16 damage that needs to be done in order for these players to get their Kingslayer points.
They're not too far off one another on the damage profiles.
Yeah, Charles already has 2 that he was able to score on that on this last turn, but
I get 1
we'll
back
see how this goes here.
on a 7.
So the aggression opens up for Mike at the bottom of next turn
He's gonna charge the health point.
because Charles has to
Hey,
choose
you
whether or
know.
not.
All right,
he's-
here's the
You
charge.
know what? It's because my guys.
And,
I'm gonna go
That's
play
Mike
Charge.
is able to make the charge here on his 3d6.
That's a big charge.
Charles says, well, you get to make your charge. And Mike says, well, my guys like me more.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Uh,
You know what you did? OSL.
all right, so we're going to see a Smash Captain into the Helverin here.
Like that?
Mike is looking like he wants to get every inch he can he would love to pressure the units in that ruin
Absolutely.
in Charles's deployment zone here.
You get rid of Grand Strategist for the other guard player, and they're crippled.
Yeah. Now he is able to secure recon this turn thanks to the Smash Captain and the Rough Riders. He does still have one additional unit of Rough Riders off of the table. He'll be able to bring them in last turn. We've seen this from him before, kind of slow rolling his units entering the table to make sure that he maintains that board control. So there was the Overwatch, but the Rough Riders looking to come in on some guardsmen. This is 2 dice looking for a 9. He sees a 5. He's going to go ahead and command point it, and he gets the charge.
I do. You don't.
All right,
So I got a 10.
and he's able to get the reroll back, so he gets that reroll for free. And I just that reroll and then getting your command point back never ceases to amaze me how high a value that is for these players. But we see the Rough Riders coming in, and this is exactly the kind of fight that Mike wants his Rough Riders in against some guardsmen on the other side of the table.
So kind of like what we saw in Game 3 with the Dark Eldar and this army. It only takes one. One bad dice roll.
Yeah, it can completely turn the tides of the game. Now, I think we saw a little more than one
Yeah,
in that
that's
last
fair.
game.
That's fair.
But as you can see here, Mike has chosen to tail out one of the Rough Riders here. And in doing that, he has found an angle where when he does his pile-in, he's going to be able to rotate the base on that back Rough Rider and potentially get within an inch of that Helvrin in order to prevent it shooting on the next turn.
Worth it.
All right, so here we have some combat coming through. Definitely not what he was hoping for. Oh my goodness, those saves. And with that, even with Mike electing to give his Smash Captain some extra attacks there, only 3 damage come through on the Helvrin. Charles was on 6 ups to save there because of the Thunderhammer and makes 2 out of 3.
The barn doors open.
Yeah, that was huge for Mike. Or I mean for Charles rather, yeah. The door's getting shut right in Mike's face is what that was.
But Mike's going to get to fight again.
He certainly can. But you know, fighting again, if he got 3 damage out of the first round of combat, that knight still has another 9 wounds.
And you clearly have some honor to win back. So
yeah, well, we'll see here. I would not at all be surprised if he chooses to fight twice with that captain. Killing the Helvrin on this turn could be a big boon, especially if that's going to pull him in range for kill points this turn. We'll see. But Mike here totaling up the amount of attacks from the Rough Riders.
Can only make make 1 attack on the.
So there's a lance, there's a chain sword, there's a horsey attack.
These are my lance attacks.
It's a lot of different dice.
I'm gonna have one guy
And
that can't swing.
I've seen Mike through the combat for these Rough Riders a lot of times, but always is very deliberate about counting through it. So not attacking all of the Rough Riders into the guard squad here, just looking to pick off a couple because he felt it was more important to tag that Helvrin. And it looks like he is able to kill 1 guardsman.
Welcome to the Grimdark, folks, where we have chainswords, we have power lances, and horsies.
Yeah, well,
each guy then gets
they got
a
hooves.
chainsword attack.
All right, so
each
here
guy
come the
gets a
chainsword
horse
attacks and the horse
These are all
attack.
strength
That's what
for
that
these
second batch of 4 is here. So we'll see if the horse can get there. It's all strength 4, no AP on these, so that's why he's rolling all of it at the same time. Just 1 through, and that is a failed save.
Okay, I guess I will try to kill you back.
I refuse to let you call them horse attacks now, though.
What if I say horsey attacks?
Horsey attacks.
Horsey
Perfect.
attacks? Horsey attacks. All right, well, Mike able to get a little bit of extra damage out of the horsey attacks there. We see some guardsmen piling in, looking to see if they can crack back at the horsies. And we'll see just how much damage these Cadians are able to do. Cadians not really known for their offense in close combat, but in the Grim Dark, you have to feel like putting a horsey out on the battlefield. That's a bit of a risk. There's a lot of armor flying around, depleted uranium shells, but hey, Rough Riders, they're all about it. And we're going to see if Mike's able to keep this Helvrin tied to prevent some shooting on the next turn.
They got to make that glue somehow, right?
Yeah, well, you see, he's shown the Helvrin there, the horse's ass, and now it doesn't know where to shoot. So. Here we go. Some crackbacks.
I'll go with my Helvrin on them.
Helvrin going to punch in. Helvrin's also not really known for their close combat.
So
But he is going to shuffle around, get himself a little bit of extra movement. He says, hey, you know, if I'm not going to be able to shoot, I might as well try and get a couple of extra inches.
No AP, right?
But
Just
here's the attacks back.
kill one.
And he is able to get a little bit of damage through. Even though it's an AP dash weapon, still pretty high strength. And
And then I'll hit your smash captain.
Mike here going to take some wounds onto his horsies here. Now we got the last batch of attacks coming in.
I think they're only strength 7, so 1.
Nothing too big there, just one wound,
He
but
Hey.
Takes one.
looks
You got
like
four left.
the Hovering able to punch the captain back, actually put a point of damage through.
He's got to attack twice at
We
this
have-
point.
We're about to find out.
His honor's on the line.
Start at
You
one,
think
so
he should
one
double
more
fight the
time.
horsies?
I think he should. I think he should.
Oh, the
double
captain,
fight
the captain,
The
the
captain
captain.
should double fight.
I'm tracking
The
now.
captain
Alright, so
failed his target
Over there. How many
and
wounds
got
is
punched
left?
in the
Nine?
face
Yep.
So I'm gonna fight again.
by a.
All right, yep, here it is. Mike choosing to
Sweet.
fight again.
I get one back.
He's able to get it at a discount.
So he had
No
Red Rampage
extra
stays,
points
so he has
picked
his
up there
6
by
attacks.
Charles. So Red
4 + 1 +
Rampage
1, yeah.
still has him up at 6 attacks, and that is an abysmal roll.
Wow.
3 2s on that first roll there, and those are the only dice that he
Now you
cannot
wanna
re-roll.
yeah.
And
Okay, yeah.
only 2 wounds once again, and another 6 coming
Yikes.
through for the save. That was 12 attacks, hitting on 3s, re-rolling
So
1s,
morale on
wounding
these guys?
on 2s, with 6 up saves,
Super dead.
and he only gets through 2 wounds.
Well, folks, the good news is that in future games, Walsh will have a new Smash captain.
So,
Nah, he's not like that, man. He'll keep it around.
2 guys.
But either way, though, definitely not the output that Mike was looking for from that specifically.
Okay.
But
Everything else
he
is
does
fine.
leave
Yep.
the super heavy
So
locked in combat.
kill one, hold one.
Yeah,
no
so
bonus.
he does have both Helverins tied,
Yeah.
We
which
tied
is a
kill
great
one.
place to be. The Castellan, though, freed up.
I think we tied
Sure.
kill one.
And so we'll see how much
I
work
got hold more.
the Castellan's able to put in on this turn.
I got recon.
That Smash Captain now
points
pretty
on Castellan.
exposed,
Alright.
and we'll see if he's able to survive the turn. But target priority, I think, going to be a little bit more challenging for Charles on this next turn. He's got some options, and Mike has definitely
Bracket.
chosen to push forward
Yep.
with some threats. So it looks like Mike able to hold more there. We'll have to see the total on the kill points to see if Charles held more. And we'll get a quick update on the score from the table.
Yeah, so if we got 30 minutes, this is probably the last.
So it looks like another. Oh, we're headed over to the Smash
Can you
captain.
confirm that?
One big night to do the job for one little night. Looks like we're gonna see maybe some close combat. It's probably the best bet that Charles will unload the guns on the other Castellan and then go to close combat on the shield captain. The problem being there, again, charging the shield captain gives him the opportunity to fight again. So at the end, do you take the shots, kind of like what was done to him?
So primary, I have 3, then I have 4.
Give them a chance here to get their movement phase taken care of. That Katie and gun line moving up,
2 Kingslayer, 2 Recon, 1 Old School. He has 2 Kingslayer.
and the other Warglaive
Dev
breaking
has
out of
one right
combat.
now. 1 Old School. Thank you.
Looks like another front and center opportunity for Charles here.
Okay.
Believe
and then
that's
in-
Mephiston. He's got
come down.
right up in the middle.
All right, so an update from the table here for you. It looks like coming out of Battle Round 2, Mike has been able to increase his lead a bit here, doing a good job of scoring his secondaries. And thanks to some good offensive output and some stalwart saves from that scout, he's able to secure hold more and kill more. It goes up 4-2 on primary that turn, and 12-8 is the score here. Advantage Mike. With that being said, Headhunter taken in this game by Charles, and there are a lot of characters still left on the table and not a lot of screen.
Yep.
So he's got the opportunity to really pull himself back into this game with that secondary objective. Headhunter meaning every character he kills results in an extra victory point. But we see here a pretty hefty amount of pressure coming in on that Smash Captain.
Yeah.
And then it looks like the Bull Ogren has continued to move around this knight, just trying to create some good spacing.
So I would need a 6
Um,
plus 1.
Mhm.
So I need a 4.
And there in the center of the table,
Do I get it back?
it looks like Mephiston has stepped up. And we may get
And then do I get? No, I don't get
And
any.
then-
that Mephiston mirror match that we were talking about before the game. But movement coming in, some orders coming down, some psychic powers.
And psychic barrier goes off. So
All right, so both of the defensive buffs that Charles has been consistently targeting Pask with, successful there. And Mephiston has moved up, and I am looking forward to that fight.
So
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna go. So orders, reroll, battle cannon shots.
All right, so Charles talking through his orders here.
We'll spend my last 2.
We've got some take aims.
ones on everything.
Okay, so see if I get it back. I don't.
I get 1.
So you're down to 1.
All right, Charles
I
here
have one
spending
shield breaker
one of his
missile.
last 2 command points, does not get it back, but he does still have
Okay,
some that he
well.
could potentially farm off of Mike.
Let's put
Now,
the two
going
big
down to 1
guns in
command
them.
point there, that does mean that he
Four
has
melta
taken
guns
away
in
the
them.
ability to House Raven
Right.
his
the
Castellan
twin
this turn.
siege breaker will
But by
put
moving as close
into-
as he did to the Smash Captain, he is going to be able to put all 4 of
will
his
put
Melta Guns
into
into that character.
in as well.
Okay.
And then the missile will put into the captain.
Okay, so do.
All right, missile into the Captain.
Reroll 1.
Hits.
No.
Oh, he does not get the missile.
my
We
and
see the repeat
barn doors
of the
close.
Kodias from game 1.
Cool
Mike
guys
may be
don't
feeling
look
some
at
poetic justice
explosions.
here, but we'll see. There's
Got
still
a ball,
plenty
got a
of
ball,
shooting
he's out.
coming in on
Oh,
this
no.
Captain. Oh, and double
Oh,
ones
saw you
coming
command
through
reroll.
on the
Okay,
saves
one.
here.
I made it.
Mike
So you got-
electing to use a command
let's
point
see if I get it
reroll,
back. I don't.
and he
Use
is
it
able
twice.
to stop one of those, so that's going to leave the
Reroll
Captain at
one.
1 wound, but
Four.
yeah,
So
definitely
you're
not
saying I just gotta
looking
make
for
one of
that
these?
kind of a first volley of saves.
You.
Got 1.
And there's a
Okay.
Down to
2.
1.
So these
Oh,
are
he
the
makes
siege
one
breaker
save?
missiles into 'em? Oh, they're into the squad.
Okay, here comes Siegebreaker missiles. Pretty good amount of shots coming out of the Siegebreaker missiles here.
He's gonna die quickly to a
This
warrior,
may
so
pay
very-
dividends for him.
At least it forces the more.
It's likely that he's going to take down the Captain, but a little bit of a moral victory for Mike when that missile whiffed. For those of you that caught the first round, that exact reroll of a 1-into-1 of a wound roll onto a character happened to Mike in the first round against Inquisitor Kodias.
Volcano
All right,
Lance
and
on
with
your
that, it looks
guy.
like that is going to be the death of
Yeah.
the Captain.
Okay.
An important kill
6 shots. So, do I get 1 back? I do get 1.
for Charles there.
Now, the difference being, there's still another Slam Captain.
Yeah, that is one of the advantages we
Oh, you
talked
wanna
about for
see
Mike.
this
He's got a little bit more redundancy
got one
Yep.
back.
and some
Yep.
of those points of power
So,
since
two.
he doesn't have the Helverins. So we see here, it
And
looks
I
like
lose 1, so
we
we
have
had to
rotated
We had to start
ion
a second
shields.
column.
So reroll 1.
Mike saying he's had to
Wounds.
start a second column to track his command points here. Beats the saves though, looking
Supercharging
good on the
calls
Castellan. These Castellans almost saving more than they're killing.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the Castellans are kind of in their own game. Like, they're not really interacting, and all the little guys are doing their own thing anyway.
So
Yeah.
6 damage.
You have to say it feels like the right choice to target Castellan against Castellan,
You bump him.
because once one of you wins, the
Right.
other player has this huge advantage. But you got to wonder if instead of that, we'd seen some targeting of the Helverins or maybe even Pask out of Mike. Oh, you have to wonder if he would have gotten more mileage. But we'll see how this third turn goes. The Castellan's still pretty healthy, but now we see
Okay,
it looks like that battle cannon may be in range. So Pask here gonna go ahead and pump some shooting into the Castellan.
1. I'll reroll the number of shots, and then he's gonna put the heavy bolters into that horse squad.
Okay.
So I reroll the number of shots.
All right, so heavy bolters into the Rough Riders. He gets to reroll the one there. Pound him into dust order. It's a buff that he gives himself. So 5 shots, 4 hits.
This is
Looking for
right.
4s, just 1 wound from the battle cannon.
D3.
Gets it,
And
though.
Mike fails it,
Down to 10.
but 2 damage coming through from the battle cannon. That is just the first volley, though.
5.
5 more shots. Here they
Hitting
come.
on 2s.
5 shots hitting on 2s,
Wounding on
4 hits. Winning on 4s. That's a much better batch of wounds here. And Mike gonna need to make some 3-ups. Fails 2.
You already
2d3 damage about to come through.
Oh, wow.
And a big 3 on one of them. That's 5 more damage for the Castellan.
So you haven't
That's going to
captured
bracket the Castellan for sure. Which
and
means
the heavy
going
bolters.
forward, the big threat's going to be at
that.
the
And
cost of
they're
command
at
points.
horses?
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael will likely start needing to spend 1 per turn
These are
to allow the Castellan to fight at its full profile. 1-point stratagems, though, coming out of this this Imperium army feel pretty good when you get to roll 2 dice, see if you get them back. Now,
Okay.
the heavy bolters there going into the Rough Riders. Looks like Mike was able to save
My
1.
Astropath will shoot a
So
pistol.
still a Rough Rider standing there, it looks like, but
Good job,
there
buddy.
may be some more shooting to come here. So we'll see if
These
the
guys
Rough
are
Rider
super
stays alive.
charged.
Just 1 wound
Sorry,
left.
do you mind if I just switch these? I accidentally put the plasma. I just want to view within 12 events. So
You might call him a Lone Ranger.
Yeah, and it looks like on the back side we are
Walsh,
seeing
Supercharged
that
and
Scion
Leon,
squad come in.
and the normal into
So-
this back squad here. That's out of the
These
cover.
three?
Yeah.
Okay.
First
A
guy.
couple of overcharge
2 hits.
coming in. Ooh,
Second guy
2 big hits.
dies.
All right.
Fifth pistol.
This is rapid fire plasma coming
wounding
into
on
the
4.
Castellan. Wounding on 4s here, he's able to pick up 2.
Yeah.
This will be 2 damage each for any failed saves, and that is 1 fail. The Castellan only 3 wounds left.
But what's he got left to fire?
Well, that does
think
look
that's it.
like the majority of the shooting. Neither of the
And
Helvrins
then
can
the normal
shoot.
Guys.
Now, that goes to show you just how crucial it was that both of
Hit.
those smaller
Scores,
knights were touched
1
last turn,
minus 2.
because with a couple of additional autocannons, that knight is likely dead before the end of the turn. And instead, Mike may get a whole additional round of shooting. The last couple of plasma going into the mortar teams. Surprising to see Charles split fire the Scions there.
Back one.
With the amount of wounds that are left, unless I misheard, it sounded like
so
3, it may be
11.
13, but with the amount of damage he took this turn, I believe it is only 3 wounds left. We'll see if that ends up biting him here. But mortar's coming down, and here we see that small arms fire
Look at
versus
the
small
thermal
models.
Don't do it.
Just all over the place.
3 of them.
All right,
What's
so
the good
3
luck on that?
saves
Really
needed.
Fair.
I believe this is the Rough Rider that's down to 1 wound.
Nope.
Oh,
Fiona Payne?
so
Okay.
close.
Don't do it. Do it. No. He's dead.
But not quite. No. Oh, it looks like that was actually the last scout.
Okay, and then the next.
Oh no,
mortar
the knight
squad
or
is
the captain was still alive there. So that was actually the last wound on the captain. Almost managed to hold it with that that last Death Company Feel No Pain, but
Had he lived, that would have been back.
the captain ends up being removed there. Here comes another batch of
Would have
mortars.
been a little bit of bad luck for you if that had happened.
Mike willing to admit that that would have been some pretty
He's on
bad
the
luck
long guy.
for Charles if that captain had survived the shooting phase.
On the guy
All
with
right. So saves coming down. Oh, almost again. That's 2 different models this turn where they've been killed exactly to the damage.
It's no.
Got some great
Not a
Stonewall Jacksons, as Mike has been saying so far throughout the game, but
You
not
know what,
quite
it'll
as
turn
many
up in a
this
year
turn.
Like my fucking Colt is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you lost it. It's definitely.
I think
gone
it
forever.
fell in your box.
Oh, I'm taking.
All
it.
right.
That one's good luck.
So Charles surveying the battlefield here, looking to see what other options he's got.
Astropath will shoot his last pistol at him if he's I think
Only a little bit of shooting left. It looks like we've got a las pistol coming
That
out.
does wound. Let me check.
That's a hit and a wound.
no. Okay. Screw that.
All right. So
Charges.
looking at this shooting phase,
Mephiston is gonna charge into Mephiston
still a
and
pretty good
back.
amount of production.
Okay, so
Out of
2
Charles, he's
plasma
going to be
pistols.
happy to get that headhunter point. Absolutely needed to eliminate that smash captain. But the big point of this turn
Ah!
coming down to
Feel no pain.
the charge here between Mephistons.
It's down to
So we'll see. Looks like a little bit of damage coming through in the Overwatch here.
Oh, he does not have quickening.
But, oh, a 4-inch
Nothing else
charge.
2 left.
All right, I gotta use
That's
one.
another failed
fuck this up.
charge, but a command point here, that's 6 inches. Is that enough?
Oh, that's really close.
He may just be outside of 7. Oh, this is incredibly
Okay, let's
close.
just die roll it. It's like 1, 2, 3.
It is
all
too
4, 5,
close to
6,
tell
7.
for the players. They decide they're just going to roll it
And
off.
do I get my command point back?
So on a 4-up,
Do I get it back?
he's going to get the charge, and it looks like he is able to roll it there. So an instance where that was too close to call, even for the players at the table, they decide, you know
You
what?
guys are gonna charge those.
There's no sense in us arguing about it. Let's just say 50-50 chance. You either get it or you don't. Charles there able to get that charge off, but man,
One.
Yeah.
a game of inches for sure. All right, so here comes the combat. And that is a boatload of dice. This may be outside of the combat here. We'll see.
They're 4-ups because they're
Yeah.
Nope. All right, Mephiston.
All right,
You can
so
3.
Mike checking heroic intervention distance here.
I did declare him as a target, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm not going to enter in.
Okay.
But because because Charles declared the characters that are further
I'm gonna spend a last
behind
command point to get
for
2 more
You
attacks.
can
for the
still
charge,
attack,
Mike
right?
considering a heroic intervention here.
I don't
But
get
if
that.
he does, then Mephiston will be able to attack this other character. I believe that is Strachan. So Mike would love the additional offensive output, but is risking a much lower toughness character here, or much less durable character, I should say.
So how many attacks do we have? 6?
6.
This
You're
is
at
a
6, right?
big decision here.
Also risk giving up another headhunter point.
What's his invul?
Because
Yeah.
if the enemy Mephiston goes gangbusters on Walsh,
Yeah, and then, well, I believe, so the one respite for Mike here is that Charles does not have enough command points to fight twice.
okay.
And he may
Right.
not have enough
3,
to
4, 5.
have him fight if he's killed either. So it looks like Mike, though, choosing just to let it happen. We're going to have Mephiston fight Mephiston.
4, 5.
Saves coming in here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
I get a feel no pain.
All right, feel no pains
two.
coming through for
Okay,
Mike.
so-
He's able to make only 3 damage. His Mephiston lives, and we're going to see him punch back.
Methyl Red Rampage back.
All right, Red
More
Rampage
attacks.
being used by Mike here.
Attacks.
He's able to get 2
Fine.
additional attacks.
See if I get it.
Charles does scoop up command point, and Mike is able to get that for free.
3 to 1.
Now in doing that, did
and
he
I
just
got
give him
1
enough?
attack, or did I have 2 attacks? Do you remember?
He went back up to 1.
5.
We'll have to see if that's a 1-point or a 2-point stratagem, but he's going to have to
And then
kill him
6
first.
attack.
So let's see. Going to check the distance to the captain. I believe he was within 6 on the previous fight, so it looks like he is. Those rerolls going to give him a fist on 2 more hits. 5 hits, looking for 2s here. That's 4 wounds. We'll see if Charles can make the saves.
Oh, yeah.
And that does not look good. 3 get through. 4 get through because he was looking for 5-ups here. Here's the damage, and that is massive damage. We've got 10 Feel No Pains coming in, and that is
Just
going to
not
do
enough.
it.
Just not enough.
Oh, in the great battle of the Mephistons, Mike's Mephiston comes out on top, and that is
End of your turn.
devastating.
Wow.
I have morale
And
horse
this is a
bonus
second
for
turn where we
round 7.
see Charles with what feels like a bit of an
So
advantage
you
on the
got kill
table,
one, hold one.
losing a battle, character v character in the
bonus.
middle, and just
You've maxed
completely
Kingslayer.
taking
You
his
got
legs
1
out
point
from
right
under him.
there.
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
I'm
You've killed
looking at it
3 things.
wondering
I
the
killed 1
necessity of just going right up the pipe. You know, this is the second time he's put a character there in 2 turns. Both times he's trying to charge in on a character that's gonna go 1 for 1 in almost every circumstance.
Yeah.
Mephiston has shown in almost every case that when you put him up against something, whatever you put him up against, he's taken out.
Yeah.
He knew he was short on command points, so he knew he was very unlikely to get the ability to swing it again.
And you know, that point, the difference in command points going into that combat may be the key that makes it too high of a risk.
Right.
Now, we see Mike, he spent a command point, he's put his Castellan back at full profile, and he's moving up here. He knows it's not likely that his Castellan is going to live to see the next turn anyway, so we might as well try and get in range
Right.
here.
But with Wings of Sanguinius up, I'm almost gonna guarantee you're gonna see Mephiston take a swing at the Warglaive, and you're gonna see the other Slam Captain descend and take out the last remaining Warglaive.
We'll see here. You know, it could come down to how much damage Mike is able to do in his shooting phase.
He hasn't had very good luck with the Slam Captains this game.
Yeah, his offensive output hasn't been that great yet.
Right.
We've only seen 1 in action. I did survive quite a bit of shooting though,
Sure.
and
And did take an entire turn worth of shots.
yeah, absolutely. And looking at this, Mike still has that Rough Rider alive, or a couple of them actually, and he's got, I believe, one more Rough Rider unit to bring onto the table. With this guard squad here pushing up on the Helverin on that objective, Mike's got OBSEC.
Yeah.
He's going to hold that objective.
Yep.
He's likely going to be able to hold the center objective on the left side of the screen that he just put those Rough Riders near. And he's putting himself in a situation where he's going to get hold more again.
Yep.
He may even be able to bonus depending on the movement from these characters.
It's true.
He's got some commanders that can move.
Yep.
But he's got to be careful because his opponent's taking Headhunter here, and he doesn't want to give away any points for free. So we'll see if he does choose to wings here. And off of that, is he able to consolidate onto an objective, hold all 4, and score the bonus? That would be a big turn for him.
Right.
But once again, we see going second, being able to steal these objectives could be a pretty good advantage. And even though he took on so much offense from Charles's list in those first 2 turns especially, he has the models to do it.
He does.
He has the depth of just dudes to survive it and still have some teeth left in his army.
Yep. And I think a big part of this, and as much as Walsh is playing successfully and playing very well, we've seen some really hot turns for Charles, but turn 2 really kind of, if I had to pick a moment where, and Charles has acknowledged this is his first, he's only been playing for about a year, he got ahead of himself.
It's possible, yeah. He took some risks, putting the captain and then Mephiston again. It's the first time. It may be one of those, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, and it's hard to say, if he's able to get either of those combats, then he runs away with it.
Sure.
But does he actually need to run away with it?
Exactly. This isn't, the score at the end of the day, we're at the final game.
Yeah.
This is winner take all.
Yeah.
You only need to win by a point.
Yeah. And you can see it on his face here. Charles, he may feel this game slipping away.
Yeah. And he's got to get out of his own head before he loses without even playing.
Yeah, he's still making moves. He's still choosing his targets. You have to wonder a little bit about the way that he's moving these armigers around the table. Successful cast of Wings of Sanguinius there has Mephiston in range to threaten this armiger. And without even jumping the other Smash Captain, he just moved him up and is going to threaten the other Helverin on the bottom of the screen there. So we could see 2 dead knights by the end of this turn. And that would be a productive offensive output for Mike.
Absolutely.
I'm interested to see here if Mike is going to target the Castellan once again or if he's just going to try and get Pask.
I would take Pask just because that knight's going to have to dedicate a lot of shots.
It's a little more of a sure bet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, actually, it also depends on where the knight is.
Yeah, that's true.
On its brackets and whatnot. He doesn't really have the command points to afford to keep letting it. He can't do House Raven anymore. And he risks running out of command points again completely, just giving it its full profile.
Yeah, degrading again at this point in the game could be significantly more valuable than in the earlier turns. So we see here Mike using that move. Once again, he's been getting great usage out of that all weekend.
Yeah.
Just grabbing those objectives,
it's a great
flying around the table with these little IG models. And here we see that last Rough Rider squad coming onto the table. And if these Rough Riders can make that charge again like he did on the last turn, we may see a significantly greater amount of damage coming down onto those guardsmen. He only put 2 of the Rough Riders actually attacking the guard in that last round of combat, so we didn't see a terribly high amount of damage output. But with Pask sitting right there, if he's able to clear out this infantry squad, he could wrap Pask.
That's true.
By next turn.
That's true, and all he's got to do is touch him.
Yeah.
He touches him for 1 turn, and the Rough Riders have the range to make it to where no matter what he does, and he doesn't really have the firepower resources anymore. Charles is very quickly finding himself out of answers.
Yeah.
He's got his mortar teams, and that's about it.
Yeah. So here we see the first bit of shooting coming down on this infantry squad. and the mortars are able to do some real damage. But Charles here wisely pulling himself out of charge range.
He's going to shoot there. He hits. He needs a
All right, so just a couple of pistol shots coming out. No damage there, though. It looks like. Mike checking ranges here.
Has to be out. They're going to dump into those guys. 7 shots.
All right, mortars
7.
coming into the Scions that dropped in last turn. Mike would likely love to take this unit out, get an extra kill point here.
Got it. Rapid fire bolter.
All right, so 1 down. Got some rapid fire coming out here with the bolt gun. That's another wound. But 6 up save there, going to keep the Scions safe. Mike noting that he's killed 1 unit so far.
Now, if you're Walsh, do you dedicate some of your firepower back on the Scions from, say, the Castellan?
I think you definitely want to kill them.
Yeah.
You know, so if he ends up needing to split fire the Castellan, I'm sure he'll do that. But plasma pistol onto the Helverin. Mephiston getting his first chip of damage in on this guy. And with it weakened pretty significantly here, I believe, if memory serves, he should be at 4 on that Helverin, because the Smash Captain was able to get in 6, and that's an extra 2, so that's 8 out of 12. But here we go, some more shooting. These are mortars once again. I believe these are coming at the Scions.
4's wound. Or 3's wound.
3's wound, yeah, they're T3.
Yeah, 3's wound here. Looking for some saves.
Got him.
But that looks like a dead unit here. Or what is the save on the
No,
Scions?
it's a 3 up.
Oh, okay, so he's actually made all
wait.
of those saves. That's great for Charles. All right, 3 mortars into the infantry squad back near on Charles' side of the table.
And I did misspeak.
Take aim here.
They hit on a 3 up.
Yes.
I don't know for sure, but I didn't see him pull any. So
2 dead.
We'll see. He may have covered them with his last command point. But the players talking through each of these here. Only a couple of infantry left in that squad.
So I got my knight left.
And with still a handful of characters in that back board edge for Charles, there are some kill points left on the table for Mike if he's able to really cripple the remaining offense coming off Charles's list here. We see that Bull Ogren, though. That may be Charles's answer to the Rough Riders, so we'll see here how this next turn goes. But Mike thinking through how he's going to target with the Castellan this turn. 19 wounds still remaining on Charles's Castellan.
All the big guns in the big eye.
Yep.
So I've been playing this game for a long time.
Okay.
And I
All right,
cannot
so
think.
it looks like,
Back here.
Mike is going to put everything into pass this turn, like you were thinking.
Yep.
Other than the
3, 4, 5, 6,
Siegebreaker
8,
cannons,
2, 4,
which are
6,
going to go
9.
into the Scions. So
Gotcha.
split fire like we anticipated.
9.
Here's that shooting.
Reroll 1s.
Rerolling the 1. Just a couple of misses there. Going to be wounding on 2s here. Rerolling any 1s. And that's a good batch.
5.
He's going to be at -1. So 5s coming in.
Wow.
Wow, that is an incredible batch of saves on those Scions. So only 1 more dying. It looks like he pulled 1 during that first batch. But here's the Volcano Lance. 2 shots, rerolling the 1. Would love 2 hits here. Gets him. 3's to wound. No, this is at the Castellan. So 4 up save. Does not have the command points left anymore in order to rotate ion shields. So that's 4 damage through so far. We're going to see Call's Wrath, 6 shots.
Yeah, so he would have had to have called cover.
Yeah, he only had 1-3 in that batch of saves.
Okay.
So it looks like he did pull a model. And that means that 3 have died from that Scion unit, I believe. He should have 1 to 2 left. All right, 9 more damage coming through. So that was 4 plus 9 is 13. With starting at 19, that means that Castellan is down to 6. So he's on his last profile. We'll see though if Mike uses any command points this turn. If he's able to get 1 back, then he can fight at full profile.
Yeah.
Can he heroic intervention?
Mike asking if Pask has the ability to heroic intervention. Being a character, he does. All right, Mephiston charging. number of shots here on the auto cannons. 6. Looking for a 6 here. Gets 1.
Nothing.
And then,
No
3.
wound though. 3 shots from the stubber. 1 hit.
wound.
1
Just
wound.
auto makes 1 wound.
Yeah, 1 wound on him. Fails.
It does get
Oh,
through.
wow.
Mephiston takes a point of damage.
It's
through
the
2
big
up
gun,
into the
man.
5 up. Yeah, the big gun, as
This guy's
Charles has
charging
said.
there.
Coming
Yeah,
through
not
for a
super
point of
broken.
damage there. And when you're dealing with Mephiston, every point does matter, especially considering he did take a bit of damage in that combat with himself.
This squad charging.
Okay. Oh, shoot him.
Mortar
Alright.
team charging back.
Field charge there. Looks like Mike is trying to charge these Scions.
They are within 11.
And he's able to make an 11-inch charge with that mortar team.
Um,
Probably not looking for the kill here, but if he can at least wrap him, make sure that he can't fire any more plasma. Although with that being said, you know, there's only 2 of those Scions
3,
left.
6, 7, 8.
Mortar team
Some
could put the
punches
work
could get
in.
there.
Yeah.
Some punches could get there.
Nope. And
A
then
little
that's
action shot
3.
for you there. The die coming at the camera. That was
There
sweet.
you go.
All right, so nothing there on the Overwatch. We're seeing Mike is able to get into charge range on the other knight on the far side. And here it is. He's going to wrap.
So what I was saying earlier, I want to live in a world where after all the years I've been playing this game, that the game comes down to a combat between a Pulkrin and some Rough Riders.
It could happen. We could be there in just a few turns.
It's, I mean, it's been such a great addition for the renewal of units that you didn't see previously.
Right. All right, so here's a charge out of the Rough Riders this turn. Looks like that is a failed charge, just trying to get a little bit of extra damage in on that Helverin.
First.
And now we're going to go into combat. So Mephiston
1 point left.
up first.
He has.
Mike is on
command.
his last command point, deciding if he wants to red rage here.
I'm gonna red rampage.
'Kay.
See if I get it back.
Yep, he is red rampaging. Does not get the point back. Whew. And Charles does get that point. That
4,
could be
5,
massive
Yeah.
on this next turn.
So 4.
But alternatively,
So that's
All
2
right,
and
3
1,
extra
so plus
attacks
3.
for Mephiston.
if he spends points,
Oh no.
Mike
could-
could get them back too.
he could get them back too.
Yeah. All right, so just 2 hits here. Man, this Helverin does not want to die. Sorry, 3 hits rather. 2 wounds.
So I need to hit a 5
And
right here.
it looks like Mike is going to need a 5 on 2 dice. He gets a 4. The Helverin is going to live with 1 wound. This armature
just won't go
will
down.
not die.
It just won't go down.
6 attacks.
All right, moving on to the mortars on the silence here. 6 attacks come through. Hitting on 4s, just 2 hits. Looking for 4s.
Strength
No
4.
wounds there.
Catch it. Even the infantry gets it.
Everything gets.
Oh, Catechin, strength 4.
Um,
But the silence there, feeling just fine
Here. Smash
with
Captain,
those
5 attacks.
4 pluses rolled by Charles. All right, Smash Captain in on the armature on the other side. 4 hits. That's 4 wounds.
This one seems to know what he's
No
about.
6-ups, baby.
Yeah, let's see if this comes back around.
That's 12.
All right, no 6s there. That's 12 damage. And that is going to cleave that armature off the table. No explosion there. So he's at least got a kill.
Pask is open for business next
Maybe
turn.
get a morale check over
And
there.
yeah, you're absolutely right.
That
Now, if you notice,
5.
the way
So I'll,
that
do
Mike
roll
has
on you.
positioned those 2 Rough Riders, not only are they holding the objective,
And then do I get it back?
but they are also
one?
preventing the
They're fine too.
or preventing Pask
turn?
from having
So
an
you got-
angle to shoot
So I
any of
got
these
kill
characters.
1,
Right.
hold
The
1
Castellan, though,
bonus,
Still freed up to do it, and
hold more.
Mephiston is definitely out in
so
the
I got
wind here.
4. And you
Mike
got,
with another
so
4-point
not
primary
kill more.
turn.
No, I did kill one.
Oh, you got kill more. So you got 3.
Since he bonused.
And
But
then I got recon again.
Charles able to kill more since that knight lived. That means that he's got a 3-point primary turn.
I'm gonna
Um,
spin one to make him.
we are seeing here both players have now maxed Kingslayer.
Oh, well.
Mike scores recon once again, 3 points on the recon there. And as far as Headhunter is concerned, we'll likely see Charles able to pick up Headhunter here, but it hasn't happened yet. So at the end of 3, looks like Mike is still going to have the lead. 11 points primary plus 8 points on the secondary. Mike is at 19, so a very strong 7-point turn for him there. Charles looking at a 3-point primary turn there. That brings him up to 8 on the primary, 6 on the secondary. He's at 14.
Okay,
So Mike with a 5-point lead going into the 4th battle round. We see movement
We'll go
here, and
ahead
as we
the first
expect,
Astro Pack will
the
try to get
Castellans,
smite into the
this low on their
first.
wounds profile, they're just
Fails.
getting in it.
The next guy will
And
max out.
Mephiston staring
He's
down
gonna hit.
a Castellan.
Final Fiston's dead, so into the shooting phase.
He's seen bigger.
All right, so
He'll
we are
burn
past the
hopefully
psychic
with battle
phase.
cannon
With Mephiston no longer on the table. For Charles, we are straight into the shooting
so
phase.
First, we're gonna do a this back squad. I think is closer to this guy. So it's 23.
Be interesting to see if we actually see some leverage from having Pask in this game. He's felt kind of like a lame duck.
Yeah, you know, he shot the battle cannon at the Castellan on one turn, didn't get a whole lot out of it. He did do some great damage with the heavy bolters though in the early turns on Mike's infantry squads, and that is really what allowed Charles to have, you know, an advantage early. We've seen it swing back. You know, Mike, even though he was in a rough position through the middle of the game, he's maintained a lead since the first turn of the game and has grown it every turn.
Absolutely.
All right, so nothing big here out of the first few dice thrown.
I guess I can't help but
fight back with them. Do you mind if
I can't help but wonder where Pask would be with the Punisher cannon.
Yeah, he would be clean sweeping some infantry, that's for sure.
He'll shoot his pistol.
You know, the battle cannon probably a metagame choice here. There were definitely a lot of knights in the room, and clearly it's gotten him to table 1. But we see the players there remembering that it looks like Charles forgot to fight back with his silence on that last turn, so they go ahead and resolve that combat, and the silent sergeant able to fire his plasma pistol there. 1 mortar platform killed, and so now we've got just a little bit of shooting. It looks like the Rough Riders were taken out by the first volley.
Into those guys.
And now we've got heavy bolters coming out of Pask. Battle cannon looking to finish off with the stuff.
So he's hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s.
Hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s for Pask here since he remains stationary. And wounding on 3s.
No. These are the heavy bolters into the squad there.
Oh, okay. Okay, my bad. 6s. Well, 6.
All right, so some saves coming out. Looks like 6 guardsmen dead
Battle
here.
cannon shots.
And we're going to keep
Reroll,
rolling
yeah.
straight through this shooting phase.
All hit. 1 wound.
4 up.
Here in just a couple of moments, we're going to be giving our players a time update. Let them know that they've got just at roughly 17 minutes left as we continue on in the shooting phase.
Okay.
Yeah,
We're gonna play the next game.
Yeah, this is the last turn.
Saving
Okay, so-
throws.
3 go through.
He's dead.
Yep. See if he blows.
He does. How far? 2d6.
Nothing.
5.
Okay.
Okay. So he fell back.
All right.
Okay, so
Looks like we're getting ready to launch the
Shieldbreakers.
attacks from the Castellan.
into your priest, because they're all characters, right?
Yeah.
Multi-meltas into this guy.
All right.
1.
Looks like we've got some Meltas going into the IG character.
Volcano Lance into your general.
Okay.
Plasma,
Volcano Lance
supercharging.
looking to target
into Strachan.
Okay.
Okay, so
Warlord
multi-meltas
and
into the guy.
Callswrath into Strachan. So with the way that this game has progressed, the
Company
Castellan
commander.
operating an angle here where it has
3 wounds,
free reign
5
on
ups.
all of these characters. We could see Headhunter being maxed this turn.
Yep.
These are the
That
number
would
of
be a
shots
huge
into
swing
the
for,
other
for Charles.
priest.
A quick update from the players. With
4,
just 16
and then
minutes
6 is
left in the
10.
round, they have both agreed that this is the final turn of the game. So this is going to decide it. Charles needs a big turn. He's targeted in such a way where he can get it. And we're going to
Uno.
see just how much work he can get done.
This is where?
Into him.
Okay, so he's got a 5 up and normal save?
All right, 5 up and vulnerable save coming in for
Wow.
Mike's commander, and that is big. But
Wow.
with 3d3,
So his name, just make sure he's
still
got
able to
a
get
5
it
up or
done.
something.
For sure.
I know he's got a Rosarius.
Mike double checking here just in case it is a 4 up instead of a 5 up.
This guy had like 1-4, I think.
Mhm.
He does have a 4 up.
Okay, so then
So it is a 4 up, so that's
1, 2,
1
3, it's this
fewer.
one. 4, 5, 6 is that one? Is that cool?
That's fine.
All right, so the player's rolling
So
off to
5
see
damage.
if they remove the 3 damage or
Okay,
the 4
that's-
damage. But either way, with 5 damage, that is going
Volcano
to take
Lance
down
into your
that
guy
character.
right
So big damage rolls,
there.
despite those great saves.
Hits.
Going to get secure that kill for Charles.
He wounds.
And Charles now just firing off those dice into the corner of the box.
Okay,
But a
supercharged
big
plasma
save
into the
there.
Striker.
All right, so here comes
get
Call's
knocked
Wrath
out
into
and
Strachan.
Last strike, or
So
you'll
it's
get
2
last
mortal
strike.
wounds. Yeah.
If these guys live, you'll have behind enemy.
All right, so
This is on
an extra
Strachan
headhunter point
with the Call's
scored.
Wrath.
Yeah.
So you got 5
Last
up.
strike scored.
Oh,
It's -4.
Did you roll 2s to wound or 3?
I rolled 3s.
Okay, because he's T5.
Yeah. Actually, it's strength 9. And
All
yeah,
right.
but it doesn't matter. It was 3s.
Okay, so he takes.
So-
you overcharged.
Yep.
So,
So 6. So he's dead. And I go
So
down
with
5.
that, Strachan is going to fall down. That's another headhunter point. Charles is trying to score every single point he can
No way I'm
this
doing
turn. And also trying to make sure that he can secure that kill more to prevent Mike from growing that lead on the primaries.
Measure here.
But he's running out of firepower.
He absolutely is. He's got some mortars left. The player's checking right now to see what is closest. And Mike, with those Rough Riders he brought in off the edge of the table, is able to get them just a couple inches closer than the Smash Captain or the any of the other characters outside of Mephiston.
So the first
So-
squad.
Looking
First
pretty
guy's
good
gonna go-
here,
Yeah.
we're gonna shoot
protecting
it.
his units,
Yeah.
although Charles is having a
Right,
big,
'cause if I don't,
big
then-
point turn.
Yeah. You gotta do it.
This is how it was in his last game,
Yep.
too.
Yeah, he had a huge last
Eight,
turn against
11.
Brian, was able to close the gap and overtake him by 3
It's been a great
points.
game, dude.
Although the return punch from Brian
Alright,
was
shakes
only
out.
1
It's been a
point
great
on
game.
that
Very
last
good.
turn.
Yeah.
And it
Making a
looks like
comeback
Mike,
again, I
with
hope.
a Smash Captain
It's gonna
left
be
on the
pretty
table
close.
and
Wound on 3s.
plenty of models to hold objectives, he may be able to do a bit more than just 1 point. But
Oh, that
we'll
was a
see.
nice roll.
All right, so
I need to
Great
not biff this. I need to make this
roll
strong.
coming out
Strong.
of
No, that's
the
opposite of strong.
out of the mortars
Oh.
So 3
here,
die.
and a
Yeah.
poor save roll. That is 3 dead Rough Riders, it looks like, for Mike. He would have loved to have that unit at a higher strength in order to go kill
Have I
those
maxed
guardsmen
Headhunter?
and
Yes.
potentially
Okay.
even
Assuming
go
those
get a
guys live,
character.
you'll get.
Yeah.
You got last strike. You'll get behind enemy.
I should have just backed them up. I totally forgot about that. Do I have any command points left?
No, we're both out, dude.
All right, both players on 0 command
Okay,
points here,
last
just trying to
one
figure
is
out if
going
there's
to go
anything
into
he
this
can
one.
do,
Yeah.
anything else Charles can do
I
to
wanna
score an
charge
extra
another,
point
it
here.
might kill me. Yeah, it's not smart. So 8, 13.
On the meth. Let's see it. I need him to like living vampire right here. Drag down.
All right, so last bit's shooting here, coming in on Mephiston. There are the wounds, or the hits rather, and here come the wounds.
Okay, so 3.
Winning on
That's
5s
a bunch
here
of work. Met techs.
due to Mephiston's toughness. And there's a 1. The 5 up, feel no pain. He gets it.
Wow.
Mephiston lives through the turn, staring the
Holy
Castellan
cow.
in the
So,
face.
Holy
I'm
cow.
charging.
And that is
Plasma thing?
massive.
Overall shooting, yeah.
That is a headhunter point miss.
Wow.
5.
And the player, oh my goodness, that is
They don't do models and
huge.
That's Charles getting a taste of his own game.
Absolutely huge. But, you know, the Castellan's still coming in here. He's still looking to try and get Mephiston in this combat.
You're gonna be at
We'll see if he can get it done. This is a big combat. Lots of misses here. Those 3s are misses on the Castellan.
5 at -2.
So you're saying there's a
We're
chance.
gonna have
There's a
to
chance. 5
see
4 ups.
here.
Mephiston.
3
No,
up
super
weapon
dead.
skill on, or 4 up weapon skill
Dead as
on
fuck.
the
Oh, not yet.
Castellan
Do it.
here. We'll
3
see
or
if
4.
the players are going
5.
to catch it.
You got him.
5 5 ups. No. Meth fought hard.
We're going to have to do a quick update, guys. Give us just 1 second. We're going to touch base with the players.
2 wounds on him.
On here?
Yeah.
Made.
Nice.
Huh?
Oh shit, you're right. Do you
And
guys know
just
how
give-
much it was? How many hits it was?
Giving them an opportunity to figure out what
Okay,
they're going to
you
do
want
with
me to
that.
just
Yeah, because he's like super degraded, right?
No, he's at top skill because
Oh.
I did that.
he's been the command point.
Oh, then
I mean,
It doesn't matter. You got him. You got him. You got
Okay,
him.
yeah,
It's fine.
I'm sorry about that.
Hey.
'cause I never
Looks
played
like,
with him.
despite
Me
that,
neither.
they're
It's
getting
good.
it sorted out, deciding that it wouldn't have made a difference in the
4
end.
times. I don't think that's the difference in the game either way. 1.
It's good.
Okay. So that's it. So
Gonna
they
go ahead
lost
and let him
3
move on
guys
through the rest of the turn.
here.
All right, the players just have a quick conversation after double checking the weapon
So
skill
there's
on
one
the Castellan. But based on the roll that they both watched,
Okay,
the
so you
players
killed
decide,
7.
you know, the amount of damage would still be enough to take Mephiston down with how
So
low
you
he was.
definitely got
So no change in the
kill
result
1,
there.
hold 1, no bonus.
So
You got
Kill
3
1,
out
hold
of
1.
4 old school points because I did that. So you're gonna kill 7. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give you kill more.
Okay.
For me totaling up how money I need to get. Not hold.
all
more,
right,
you
so
2 right now. So right now we would tie. Hold
last
more.
last strike
3.
and behind
So 3,
or
6,
line breaker
9, 10, 11.
scored on old school here.
Plus 11 is 22. Right, and I'm at 19 going into this turn.
Okay.
All right, so it's looking
So-
like the final total for
I
Charles,
need to kill something.
assuming
and hold
he
something.
maintains
If I
kill
kill
more, which is
something, that's
likely.
20.
Mm-hmm.
That will also
Then,
be last strike, which would be 21.
He's going to finish with 22
I
points.
need to hold 1.
So, Mike coming to this turn with
22.
19. He's going to need to score 4
If I
points
get
to
over
win
there,
this
that'll be
game.
23.
So, he needs to kill a unit.
Get to
Yep.
12 inches.
That's going to give him kill 1. He's going to hold 1.
He's just gonna
Mhm.
run, and he'll be in there.
And then he would get last strike for old school.
Yep.
That's 3.
Line
And
breaker.
if he's able to get line breaker,
Is the bonus
then
on
that'll
board
be
or
the
is it
4th
hold and
point,
contest?
and he can win the game
It's hold and
23 to
contest.
22.
No, if a player holds all 4 at
An
the end.
incredibly
it's not
tight game
the
once
other
again.
one.
Now, he does have to kill something,
Just thought there was maybe a chance.
but
for me
he's
to
got
but
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
not here.
a smash captain
So no
to try and
bonus.
get the job done.
So. This shit's all
Can
All
you
right,
imagine
Mike,
being in the head of
making
Charles
sure he's
right
not
now?
leaving
Last
anything
strike.
out,
I'm gonna get behind enemy lines,
planning
that's
out
20.
every movement here, totaling
Gonna
up
get
what his
hold
points
1.
would be, assuming he gets the job done.
Is there any way for me to get?
Charles is at 22 currently.
either
All
one of
right,
us to get
so
hold more? I need 2.
You imagine being in
Balls
Charles'
there.
head right now.
I
1
don't have
point
any
away.
better
we're gonna find out.
on
We're gonna
sec.
find out. He's put himself in a position to
So I'm
where
at
he
19
has
right now.
models on 2
I'm gonna get
objectives.
1
That's
for-
including the line breaker.
So he's
Yeah.
trying
So
to
we're not at 19 going
maintain
into this turn.
or
Okay.
prevent Mike
So
from
20
scoring
will
hold
be
more.
line breaker.
And
21
in
will
this
be holding
moment, we
objective.
see the rally cap turn backwards for Charles. And
Charles pulls
he
the Ash
is-
Ketchum.
22.
He is
and then
just
23
like he
last
did
turn.
against Brian, actually,
And then
on the
you
last
already
turn
gave me
there.
hold
So,
Yeah, and I've given you everything.
Yep.
So the whole
Yeah.
game comes down to me
So-
killing those guys for the win.
He's ready to catch that
If I kill
golden
those
goat.
guys, I win by 1,
Mike,
right?
talking through
Fall back.
the turn here, he is convinced
we
that
agreed all that. I'm
this
just gonna
game
try to
is
kill
going to
them.
come down to whether or not he can kill these scions.
Um,
Right, so that's, yeah, because you get 1, you killed something, you hold something.
So,
you get this,
2 units of mortars.
so that's 20.
He's got 1
you already
character
gave
back
me,
there,
I've given you all your stuff, yeah.
I couldn't kill your company commander.
and
Had you killed
potentially
him?
a couple of pistols.
Then it would have been a
But
tie.
those scions have proved incredibly
Alright,
resilient.
So,
So,
he's gonna move.
it all comes down to
doesn't
this.
matter. This is gonna move and run.
The Rough Rider
11.
scoring line breaker.
Shouldn't be hard for them to get that with move, move, move.
Oh, the Rough Rider is already slotted up there at the
Gotcha.
at the left side of the board.
No psychic.
So line breaker is
shooting.
secured. 2
Um,
objectives are secured.
He's gonna do get back in the fight.
Here comes the shooting.
He's gonna do
Commander
take aim.
giving orders, get back in the
He's
fight
gonna
so this
do
mortar
move,
team
move,
can
move
shoot.
himself. He's gonna do take aim. So take aim, get
And
back.
take aim.
Mhm.
So
So I'm
take
just
aim,
gonna do all 5,
take
all
aim.
6 mortars there.
get back in the fight. We've got
1.
6 take aim mortars and 2 that are minus
so
1.
So 2,
We're going to
4,
see if
6,
this gets the job done.
7.
Not a great
11,
roll
17.
on the
So for
volume
these
there.
guys, oh, those 3.
Yeah, yeah. So 17. 2, 3, 6.
So 17
9,
shots take aimed here.
12, 15.
Can
16,
the
17.
scions hold?
And these are take aimed.
All right, take aim there, picking up some extra shots, but a lot of misses. Looks like only 7 hits. And that is not a great wound roll. Only 3. Here come the saves.
There it
He
is.
fails 2, and that's the handshake.
Wow.
The Scions are not able to hold it up.
Good game, bro.
Big hug here from the players.
There it is.
And another just incredibly close game.
Holy cow.
It comes down. It comes down to those invuln saves.
Yep.
That
Oh,
that Mike's character made on that last turn. Guys, what a game.
Oh no, he's got 2 wounds, right?
Hit the players up in the chat. Let them know how awesome that was. Just a phenomenal game.
Would you call it a barn burner?
I mean, absolutely. Like, what more do you want? It's a 1-point game. We saw knights all over the table. We saw smash captains flying all over the table. We saw over 100 models dead in this game. Just an
There it is.
absolute slugfest. And, you know, 2 guys who, you know, who played to the best of their ability. You know, you could say Charles maybe took a route that was more aggressive than it needed to be, potentially gave Mike some opportunities to come back into this game.
For sure.
But, you know, he was pushing a lead. He was leveraging it. He knew
Oh, yeah.
even though he was advantaged from what is left on the table, you know, models on the table, what
Right.
firepower I have, he knew he had an advantage, but he was behind on kill points by the end of the second turn.
Sure.
And when you're in that situation, you do at a certain point need to start pushing forward. And there, you know, we didn't get to 6 turns in this game. We got through 4.
Right.
Both players with a lot of dice to roll, a lot of models on the table. And it may be that, you know, he knew we're in a situation where I'm not going to actually get
Right.
6 turns.
Exactly.
If he's going to get 6 turns, then by all means, you can be passive. You can wait until the 4th turn of the game
Yep.
to really start to push forward. But, you know, maybe some good foresight on Charles's part there,
Possibly.
putting himself in a position where he says, you know what, if this game is only going to go 4 turns, I need to start closing the gap now.
Sure.
He put himself in a position with 3 dice, re-rolling for a 9-inch charge. You're going to get that a majority of the time.
Yeah,
so an
that was the big one.
Yeah, an unfortunate situation for him to be in there, losing his smash captain, and then almost an exact repeat on the turn after that with Mephiston,
Yeah.
just losing in the combat in the mirror match. But a great game between these 2 players, just an awesome weekend of 40K, and we got to cap it off
Couldn't agree more.
with a 1-point victory to take bracket 1, table 1. And with that, Michael Walsh defends his title as the Barnyard Brawl champion. What an incredible weekend. Some great games of 40K, and gotta feel good if you're Mike Walsh right now.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe very exhilarated coming in with a 1-point win.
Yeah, just incredible. So, guys, we thank you so much for joining us for these games this weekend. We're going to get the players back for the awards ceremony. And thank you so much for joining us. We've had a great weekend casting for you guys. TJ, it's been awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, brother. And the players did a great job for us all weekend long. We thank you so much for all the games and the play and the fact that they were excited to be on the stream. And really, you know, I think we got to see 4 games where the players were just great to each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, great sportsmanship,
100%.
and we love to see that. Now, as you know, this is not the last Barnyard. This is just the second Barnyard.
That's right.
We've got the 3rd Barnyard Brawl coming up in October with a new twist this time, a 64-player kill teams tournament.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have full-scale 40K. We're going to have kill team scale 40K, and it is going to be an absolute blast. Check out the Barnyard Brawl website and the Red Barn online to see those upcoming events. I'd encourage you all to come. I've had fun playing in the tournament on the first round. I've had an awesome time casting the tournament. And as you can see, the players are having a great time playing some awesome games. So come out and join us next time. And until then, we are Roundabout Gaming, casting live from the Red Barn in Greenville, South Carolina. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a